Chapter 2684. Preemptive Strike. Boom. A terrifying punch landed on Xueqi's face and sent him flying like a cannonball, penetrating through countless buildings and disappearing into the distance. Amidst the dust, Lin Ling's figure was faintly discernible, shocking the entire resplendent academy. One punch. The 28th on the Heaven Surpass ranking was sent flying. Previously, Xueqi had said that those with talent were true dragons and those without talent were trash. But now, he was sent flying by a simple punch. This meant that Xueqi was wrong. In the 100 Schools of Thought contest, talent wasn't everything. Senior Brothers was divine physique and Court of Gods could shake the 10 worlds. But Lin Ling sent him flying with just his fist? How is this possible? No one was more shocked than Genji. Because he was a first generation, he was clearer than the others about the strength of the first generation. No wonder he didn't retaliate, it was because he didn't care. Perhaps only an opponent like Xueqi would interest him. Genji muttered to himself. In fact, the surrounding disciples were speechless. Thinking of how they looked down on Lin Ling, it was as if they had slapped themselves in the face. No matter what kind of genius they were, no matter how powerful they were. But Lin Ling was their senior brother in the past, and he was still their senior brother today. They thought that Lin Ling had declined, but that was just their wishful thinking. Who said that Lord Lin Ling had fallen off the stage? Get out here! Someone suddenly roared. It was Falling Flower's flowing water sword. He wanted to see what these arrogant people had to say. The surrounding geniuses were embarrassed and lowered their heads. In the resplendent academy, strength was everything. Lin Ling had also proved everything. It also meant that Lin Ling didn't care about their mockery and ridicule. They were just a bunch of sparrows squawking. Good, you dare to sneak attack me, it's my turn now. At this time, a figure shot over with a speed of 4 worlds. A halberd seemed to have shot out from time to time. Obviously, Lin Ling's punch didn't injure Xueqi, it only made him look miserable. Rumble! The divine body descended once again. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, and even time seemed to slow down a bit. And this was the might brought about by Xueqi's divine body. One had to know that in a battle between martial artists, the short span of a breath could change everything. In addition, he had clearly erupted with his full strength at this moment, and his strength had reached the peak of the 6th level of the true god realm. Not good. Seeing this, people immediately cried out in alarm. No one thought that Xueqi would suddenly make a move. He had obviously learned from Lin Ling and attacked as soon as he said so. However, his realm and talent were both higher than Lin Ling's. If he launched a sneak attack, it would definitely be very difficult for Lin Ling to block. At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes flashed. He had not expected his opponent to be so tenacious. This caused his attack to be slightly slower. However, at this moment, sword shadows rushed out from behind him and turned into 108 swords. They formed a military formation to protect Lin Ling. Clang! 108 swords shot towards the halberd in a frenzy, producing ear-piercing sounds of metal colliding. Some of the weaker geniuses began to bleed from their 7 orifices. How terrifying! Lin Ling's Ashura sword formation is actually so powerful. I'm also a swordsman and have also cultivated the Ashura sword formation. Compared to Lin Ling's sword, I'm far inferior. Ironically, I was the first to mock Lin Ling previously. Everyone's faces turned red. Some swordsmen were so ashamed that they wanted to hide their faces. Because they had also cultivated the Ashura sword formation, they had thought that they had surpassed Lin Ling. However, who knew that it was just wishful thinking? Lin Ling, is this all you've got? At this moment, Xueqi's body appeared. He held the halberd in one hand and shattered the void. The pressure was extremely great. The terrifying thing was that the pressure alone was enough to shatter a world. Moreover, although the Ashura sword formation had blocked the halberd, it was only a matter of time before it was swept away. This was because Xueqi's talent had slowed down the speed of the sword formation. It was as though time had been frozen. I've said that talent is everything. Noticing this, Xueqi sneered. He thought that Lin Ling had only ambushed him previously. Otherwise, Lin Ling would not have the right to be so arrogant. I still don't think so. However, at this moment, Lin Ling was also staring at him. With a wave of his hand, an ancient sword shot down from the sky. He had actually pulled out a sword from the Ashura sword formation. Moreover, with the ancient sword in his hand, he slashed at Xueqi along with the Ashura sword formation. Haha, this speed is too slow. Junior brother Lin Ling, did you not eat? Under the influence of Zhua Yu's divine body, Lin Ling's speed was very slow. Zhua Yu's eyes were filled with disdain. With such a slow speed, the power of the sword must be limited. Remember, this sword is the Ashura sword formation. It is also a martial art from the primeval world. Lin Ling ignored him. He slashed out with the sword, as though he was going to cut the sky. However, in the eyes of the crowd, this sword was indeed slow. It was so slow that many of the geniuses could easily dodge or even block it. This is normal. After all, senior brother Lin Ling was the last to attack. Zhua Yu suppressed him first. Someone said solemnly. It was He Shi. As expected of an experienced martial artist, he was able to see through everything. If that's the case, senior brother Lin Ling counterattacked in a hurry. No wonder the power of his sword was so weak. The geniuses around them were not weaklings. They had also figured out everything. For example, Lin Ling had attacked first, which was why senior brother Zhua Yu was swept away. Now that senior brother Zhua Yu had attacked first, it would be difficult for Lin Ling to block it. Rumble! However, as soon as they finished speaking, Lin Ling's sword slashed down, accompanied by the Ashura sword formation. Clang! Zhua Yu's long halberd cracked instantly. Silence! The crowd was dead silent. They clearly saw that Lin Ling's sword was not powerful. However, with one slash, senior brother Zhua Yu's long halberd was broken? Of course, the most shocked person was Zhua Yu. His eyes were wide open. Lin Ling was only a level 2 true god. How could his sword be so powerful? Swoosh! As the sword slashed down, blood spurted out. If it was not for Zhua Yu's strong divine body that could control time, that slash would have split him into two. Even so, his right arm was chopped off. He retreated frantically and spat out mouthfuls of blood. My right arm. How could I lose to a junior brother like you? He shook his head as he retreated, as though he could not believe what he had seen. One should know that he had used 300 years to climb from the 29th place to the 28th place on the heavenly transcendence list. However, he had just stabilized his position and was overtaken in the next moment. And Lin Ling seemed to have only used 3 years. At the thought of this, his heart was filled with jealousy and resentment. There was even a strong murderous intent. This was because Lin Ling had taken away his honor. This is crazy. Previously, Lin Ling attacked first and sent senior brother Zhua Yu flying. Then, senior brother Zhua Yu attacked first as well. However, he could not touch Lin Ling at all. Instead, his arm was chopped off. Everyone's heart trembled violently. At this point, it was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. Bang! At this moment, the dull sound of footsteps continued to resound. Chapter 2685. A mouth that devoured everything. Because he noticed the killing intent in Zhua Yu's eyes, Lin Ling would not show mercy to those who wanted to kill him. Lin Ling. Bang bang bang. His pace was neither fast nor slow, but it was like thunder, causing the air to explode continuously. Every step seemed to step on Zhua Yu's heart, causing his face to turn paler. He was still activating his god body, so he guessed that Lin Ling couldn't be fast and could only walk slowly. He had the time to escape, but if he escaped, how could he face others? Lin Ling, don't go too far. Gritting his teeth, Zhua Yu waved his right hand and a blood-red pill appeared. It was the Earth Ring pill. This was a pill that was even more precious than the human ring pill. Not only could it instantly recover one's world essence, it could also heal one's injuries. You forced me to do this. If you die today, you can only blame yourself for being blind. Zhua Yu looked at the pill reluctantly and swallowed it in the end. This medicinal pill was originally intended to be used at a critical moment, but who would have thought that facing this junior brother Lin Ling, he would also be forced to use it. His heart was also bleeding at this moment. But after the medicinal pill entered his stomach, his severed arm began to grow crazily. His muscles wriggled like worms and gradually recovered to their original state. On top of that, his boundary river had also become even larger. Using medicinal pills? Even if senior brother Zhua Yu won, he still lost. Seeing that scene, many people shook their heads. This was because Zhua Yu no longer viewed this battle as a spar, but a battle of life and death. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used the Earth Ring pill. Therefore, even if he won, it was an unfair victory. Lin Ling, your previous Jie Yuan martial art, Azura sword formation, is very powerful. Moreover, your strength seems to be very strong as well. You have indeed taught me a lesson. However, let me tell you, the truly powerful thing is talent. I want you to personally admit this truth. Xueqi shouted crazily as he sensed the boundary essence climbing higher and higher. Following his roar, the entire resplendent academy began to tremble. At the same time, more and more geniuses arrived and looked at the scene in horror. Especially after seeing Lin Ling, they were even more shocked. 3 years. They thought that Lin Ling had escaped from Qingzhou, but today, they saw Lin Ling again. Furthermore, they saw Lin Ling's domineering scene. Is the final battle about to begin? Senior brother Lin Ling, you're amazing. 3 years ago, he was only ranked 30th on the sky-surpassing rankings. Now, I'm afraid he can reach 29th. 3 years, Tessa. Voices of admiration rang out one after another. The geniuses who had previously worshipped Xueqi all turned their gazes toward Lin Ling. No matter if Lin Ling won or lost, it was enough for him to be proud. Yan Ningbo blood halberd. The surrounding voices undoubtedly made Xueqi even angrier. A white goddess floated out from behind him. She was as beautiful as a flower fairy. At this moment, the mystic goddess wielded her halberd and shot towards Lin Ling like an otherworldly fairy. Clearly, with the help of the Earth Ring pill, he unleashed the strongest attack of his true god martial soul. What is a divine body? What is unsealing? A frog at the bottom of a well, like you will understand. After unleashing the otherworldly fairy, Xueqi also shot towards Lin Ling. Swoosh! What was terrifying was that wherever Xueqi's true god martial soul passed, it tore through the void, causing a black path to appear in mid-air. That was the chaos of the universe. What was even more terrifying was that time had stopped. The surrounding people could think, but they couldn't move. They could only be shocked by Xueqi's heaven-defying divine body. Stop! At this moment, an anxious voice suddenly rang out. A figure floated in the sky and flickered a few times before appearing in the square. It was Ancestor Dragon Granny. Xueqi, you dare violate the Academy's rules? Ancestor Dragon Granny saw Xueqi unleash his full strength and knew that he wanted to kill Lin Ling. However, Xueqi ignored her and his eyes turned even colder. Lin Ling must be killed. Otherwise, he would be surpassed in 3 years. Sir. Lin Ling. Time had been frozen. Falling flowers, flowing water, and the others could only cry out in their hearts. In fact, they had confidence in Lin Ling from the beginning. However, now that time had been frozen, even if Lin Ling had powerful strength, he couldn't unleash it. The talents of the strongest generation were heaven-defying. I've said it before. You're not qualified to discuss martial arts. However, at this moment, Lin Ling spoke. This caused everyone to be greatly shocked. Time had been frozen, but Lin Ling could still speak? Even Xueqi was secretly shocked. However, he didn't care. He thought that Lin Ling was just a flash in the pan. This was also because he had confidence in his divine body. In the past, with his divine body, he had even killed an 8th-stage true god expert. Because time had been frozen, even if the opponent had powerful realm essence, they couldn't attack. Therefore, they could only hate him. In fact, he didn't know that Lin Ling was full of disdain for his time freeze. This time freeze could only freeze people weaker than Xueqi. It couldn't be compared to the time steel. The time steel could burn space and time. That was the true time freeze. It was just that Lin Ling was still unable to activate that effect at the moment. 29? That's enough for me to unleash 70% of my strength. Lin Ling muttered to himself. An ancient aura spread out from his body. Boom! Boom! Hundreds of beasts roared. The fish demon, silver lion, azure dragon, and black tortoise appeared behind Lin Ling and roared toward the sky. That terrifying aura actually caused Second Ring City to tremble. What divine body? Resonance of the gods? Ancestor Dragon Granny wanted to help Lin Ling when she saw this scene. However, she stopped in her tracks with a face full of excitement. Divine body! Lin Ling had given birth to a divine body? And it wasn't of the fire element? How many secrets did this guy hide? What had he done in the past 3 years? The geniuses who were frozen in the surroundings felt their hearts explode as their minds roared. He also has a divine body. Xueqi was also shocked. No wonder he had always found it strange that his divine body couldn't suppress Lin Ling's combat strength. So that was the reason. Even so, there were strong and weak divine bodies. His spatial Dachira physique was definitely above Lin Ling's divine body. What's the use? Dang! The heavenly flying immortal was getting closer and closer to Lin Ling. The long halberd flashed coldly. However, Lin Ling still stood motionless with a cold expression on his face. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Roar! A huge mouth quietly appeared as if it had appeared out of thin air. Then, it pounced out from behind Lin Ling and swallowed the heavenly flying immortal along with the long halberd. This sudden change shocked the entire academy. What kind of divine body was this? A mouth. That was too strange. Even Xueyu's eyes widened. His true god martial soul had been swallowed? However, he quickly reacted and immediately wanted to retreat. However, he realized that he couldn't move. Time was frozen. His eyes couldn't help but stare at Lin Ling. He suddenly guessed that Lin Ling's divine body had swallowed the power of his divine body and then fed it back. Chapter 2686. The Academy's Rules. I've said that talent isn't a part of martial arts. That's why you were defeated by my sword. I've also said that you're not qualified to discuss martial arts because your divine body is like child's play in front of me. Lin Ling looked at Xueyu indifferently with disdain in his eyes. He reached out his right hand and grabbed Xueyu's neck, lifting him up. Xueyu tried to resist, but he realized that Lin Ling's right hand was too strong. His realm origin energy couldn't move it at all. This made him realize that Lin Ling didn't just rely on the Ashura sword array to cut off his right arm, but also his terrifying divine body. At this moment, he finally realized that talent wasn't the only thing that mattered on the path of martial arts. Lin Ling had opened his eyes and taught him a lesson about what it meant to be a genius who was strong in all areas. He lost. Senior brother Xueyu lost. Look at his face. Hee. No one was dissatisfied with senior brother Xueyu's discussion. Lin Ling was passing by and he didn't care about senior brother Xueyu. However, senior brother Xueyu thought that he was stronger and insisted on asking Lin Ling for an answer. He even provoked Lin Ling. Now that he's defeated by Lin Ling, I'm afraid he's too ashamed to show his face. In front of senior brother Lin Ling, senior brother Xueyu really isn't qualified to discuss martial arts. He's like a clown in front of senior brother Lin Ling. People were shocked and mocking. They were shocked because Lin Ling was so strong and his mouth was so tough. It was their first time seeing him devour a true god's martial spirit. What was ironic was that Xueyu wasn't Lin Ling's opponent at all. He actually gave Lin Ling pointers. Xueyu was smashing his own foot with a rock. However, senior brother Xueyu wanted to kill Lin Ling. I'm afraid senior brother Lin Ling won't let him go. Probably. The Resplendent Academy has a rule that geniuses can't kill each other. Moreover, Xueyu is one of the strongest geniuses of his generation. That's true, but Xueyu wanted to kill senior martial brother Lin Ling. More and more people voiced out their opinions. They all believed that Lin Ling would not kill Xueyu. After all, this was a violation of the rules. However, how could they guess Lin Ling's way of doing things? Previously, Lin Ling had been ridiculed. If it were someone else, they would have already attacked. However, Lin Ling disdained to attack the weak and ignored them. And now, Xueyu wanted to kill him. How could he, Lin Ling, be afraid of the Academy's rules and not dare to make a move? Lin Ling's lips curled into a sinister smile. His right arm rolled like a dragon, and the powerful force caused Xueyu's pupils to bulge. The taste of death appeared in his mind. He wanted to beg for mercy, but he couldn't make a sound. This senior martial brother Lin Ling really made a move? Crazy. Upon seeing this, the second and third generations of the Resplendent Academy were dumbfounded. Monster Lin Ling's way of doing things was indeed different from ordinary people. Lin Ling, don't be impulsive. But at this moment, an anxious voice suddenly sounded. Ancestor Long looked at Lin Ling worriedly and shook her head. In the Resplendent Academy, disciples are not allowed to kill each other. Moreover, the first-generation disciples are even more so. Otherwise, it would be a violation of the Academy's rules. As long as one is a genius of the Resplendent Academy, no one can violate the rules. Lin Ling, you can teach him a lesson or even trample him under your feet, but you can't kill him. Ancestor Long continued to speak. Lin Ling's hand gradually loosened. His eyes flickered as he said, I still remember this rule. The Resplendent Academy is a place to nurture geniuses. It doesn't want geniuses to kill each other. His voice wasn't loud, but many geniuses nodded. They weren't surprised by Lin Ling's choice. Even Yu and the others were the same. Although Lin Ling is powerful, he still doesn't dare to violate the Academy's rules. Yes, in front of the Academy, even if Lin Ling is a dragon, he will still have to kneel down. Sounds of discussion could also be heard. After Lin Ling loosened his grip, Xueqi could finally breathe again. However, being held by the neck in front of everyone, and whether he lived or died, he still had to see Lin Ling's expression. This made Xueqi furious. He felt that he had no face to see anyone. Haha, Lin Ling, you have guts. I can tell you that today's humiliation will be returned tenfold in the future. Moreover, you, Lin Ling, are a piece of trash, a coward. You don't dare to face a true first-generation disciple. The Grim Reaper has always wanted to fight you, but you didn't even dare to see his face and could only hide for 3 years. Haha, trash. Xueqi's voice was sharp, and he even spat at Lin Ling. It was as if he was saying, kill me if you have the guts. If you don't, you're trash. That arrogance made the crowd's pupils dilate. Mu Ran felt even more disgusted with Xueqi. If it wasn't for Lin Ling having scruples about the Academy's rules, Xueqi would have died long ago. He even spat. What an ugly person. However, Lin Ling didn't pay attention to Xueqi's words. He seemed to be thinking about something. The geniuses of the Resplendent Academy couldn't kill each other, but in the 3rd and 4th Ring City, there were so many people who came to kill him. There were experts like Lei Tianlan and the Sovereign Marquis. At that time, who knew where the Resplendent Academy was? Moreover, in these 3 years, the Grim Reaper spread rumors, making Yu, Falling Flowers, Flowing Water, and the others ridiculed in the Resplendent Academy. At that time, where was the Resplendent Academy? Thinking of this, Lin Ling pulled the jade token from his waist, threw it on the ground, and stepped forward. Pa! The jade token was broken. This action made everyone's eyes widen. They didn't understand what Lin Ling was doing. Even Ancestor Long Pa was the same. You're Xueqi? Ranked 28th on the Tianyue leaderboard? Lin Ling's gaze started to wander and landed on Xueqi. That's right. You even had the chance to go to the 5th Ring City and meet the various heirs. Lin Ling, you're still too inexperienced to go against me. To be honest, in Qingzhou, I'll use 1,000 ways to kill you. Xueqi lifted his chin and said proudly. He didn't know that he was about to die. Pa! However, just as he finished speaking, he was met with a slap. It was a clean slap from Lin Ling. I asked you, are you Xueqi? Who asked you to answer such unimportant questions? That slap knocked out all of Xueqi's teeth. His eyes were burning with anger. Lin Ling didn't dare to kill him, but he humiliated him. Despicable. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Only Lin Ling had the courage to force a member of the strongest generation like this. You're only temporarily proud, Xueqi said in a low voice. Pa! However, Lin Ling was expressionless. He slapped Xueqi again. Did I ask you to speak? Xueqi didn't expect Lin Ling to be so arrogant. He didn't even give him the right to speak. Pa! Chapter 2687. An Authority of the Qing State. This time, Xueqi was so angry that his body trembled. He glared at Lin Ling with resentment, but he did not dare to do anything. He was certain that if he dared to say another word, Lin Ling would beat him again until he dared not say another word. If news of one of the strongest generation falling into such a situation were to spread out, others would laugh their heads off. This Lin Ling is simply a madman. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? However, when Xueqi no longer dared to be arrogant and was about to settle the score, Lin Ling spoke again. This sentence made Xueqi snort in his heart. He almost wanted to say, do you dare? But when his eyes met with Lin Ling's, he suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of panic. This was because Lin Ling's eyes were filled with killing intent. It was a terrifying massacre. A fearless massacre. Impossible, Lin Ling definitely wouldn't dare to kill him. Otherwise it would be a violation of the rules. And the surroundings suddenly became quiet, because people felt the killing intent on Lin Ling's body, very strong, very cold. Even Ancestor Long Pa sensed it. She shouted anxiously, Lin Ling, don't be impulsive. Pah. However, just as she finished speaking, a crisp sound rang out. This was because Xueqi's neck had been broken by Lin Ling. His head was tilted to one side, and his eyes were still wide open. It was as if he died with his eyes wide open, and he couldn't understand why Lin Ling dared to kill him. Whoosh! However, not only did Lin Ling kill him, he even pulled off his head and held it in his bloody hand. He looked at everyone coldly. Plop! Everyone's hearts suddenly jumped violently. Lin Ling was so crazy, like a killing god. At this moment, they were completely in awe of Lin Ling. Was this still the senior brother Lin Ling who had declined for 3 years? Lin Ling! Ancestor Dragon Granny shouted anxiously. Lin Ling had really killed him. I will never let go of anyone who wants to kill me. Lin Ling said indifferently. His voice was calm, but it was like a sharp sword that stabbed into everyone's hearts. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll pay them back tenfold. This was Lin Ling's principle. Alas! Ancestor Long also knew Lin Ling's temperament. After a long sigh, she hurriedly said, "Hurry up and leave Resplendent Academy. Violating the rules is not a small matter. There's no need to leave. Breaking the rules in front of everyone. Lin Ling, you've got guts." But right at this moment, a voice filled with majesty resounded, and an enormous pressure seemed to descend from the heavens, causing all the geniuses of the Resplendent Academy to tremble in fear. It was too terrifying. It was as if they were looking at an ancient giant. However, what was surprising was that the person who had come was not a giant, but a weak woman. She wore a neat uniform robe, and her long hair was tied behind her head. Her temples were gray, but she was wise and mighty, with a majestic aura. There was a sword hanging from her waist, and as she walked, a powerful aura surged out. Dean Qin. Ancestor Long's expression changed drastically when she saw this, and she took the lead to salute. The entire Resplendent Academy was shocked. That woman, who seemed to be in her 40s, was the dean of the Resplendent Academy? This was an ancient figure who was elusive and elusive. Even Lin Ling was secretly shocked because this was the first time he had seen the dean. However, he could sense that the woman's strength was unfathomable. Vice Dean Gong and the others appeared behind the woman, and at this moment, they had bitter smiles on their faces. First generation Lin Ling, do you know your crime? After Dean Qin appeared, she cast a cold gaze at Lin Ling and angrily shouted, "Kneel!" Her voice carried the majesty of heaven, and it had an irresistible majesty. Plop! Before Lin Ling could kneel, all the geniuses of the Resplendent Academy knelt down in fright, their faces pale. "Why aren't you kneeling?" Dean Qin was even more displeased when she saw that Lin Ling did not kneel. She had naturally heard of Lin Ling's name. He was the monster with the fastest cultivation speed in the history of the Resplendent Academy. However, he was extremely arrogant and had offended a large number of experts, giving the Resplendent Academy a lot of pressure. The biggest pressure came from the Empress Dowager, and it was obviously the idea of Old Mother Lei Yin. Therefore, in order to appease the Empress Dowager, Qin Suizan had been reprimanded many times. "Why should I kneel?" At this moment, Lin Ling spoke with an expressionless face. As soon as he finished speaking, Dean Qin's face turned gloomy while Vice Dean Gong waved his hand incessantly at Lin Ling from behind. Even the Ancestor Dragon Granny flashed towards Lin Ling and pulled him to his knees. After all, Dean Qin was an overlord of Azure Prefecture. Not to mention Lin Ling. Even she didn't dare to rashly offend him. However, Lin Ling's bones were extremely hard. No matter how Ancestor Long Granny pulled, he did not move an inch. "You violated the rules of the Resplendent Academy and killed a generation. I asked you to kneel and admit your guilt, and you are actually dissatisfied?" Dean Qin's voice became even colder as she reprimanded. "None of you are allowed to pull him. I want to see how arrogant this troublemaker is." Vice Dean Gong smiled bitterly and did not dare to wave his hand at Lin Ling anymore. Ancestor Long Granny was the same. "He wanted to kill me. Am I not allowed to resist?" Lin Ling replied indifferently. "He wanted to kill you, but he didn't kill you, so he didn't violate the Academy's rules. You killed him, so you violated the rules. You still dare to talk back?" Dean Qin was getting angrier and angrier. If it weren't for the fact that there were too many disciples around, she really wanted to teach this arrogant Lin Ling a lesson. However, not only was Lin Ling not afraid, but he became even more arrogant. "Dean Qin, What you mean is that I have to let him kill me before he can break the rules. What a joke, what a joke. I can tell you that if I die in his hands, you might not stand up for me. Dean Qin pointed at Lin Ling and flew into a rage. Was Lin Ling reprimanding her? Or was he laughing at her? She was about to speak, but Lin Ling spoke faster than her. The Academy's rules state that geniuses are not allowed to kill each other. He wanted to kill me first, so I retaliated. You don't blame him, but blame me? In Third Ring City and Fourth Ring City, there were many experts who wanted to kill me. Why didn't you act against them? They wanted to kill the geniuses of Resplendent Academy, so I don't understand where your rules come from. Also, when I was in seclusion for 3 years, my junior brothers and geniuses from other academies mocked and ridiculed me. At that time, I didn't see you standing up for our disciples. Please answer my question, Dean Qin. Lin Ling's words were like a string of cannons, causing Dean Qin to be stunned. For a moment, she couldn't refute. They wanted to kill you because they weren't from Resplendent Academy. The enemies you provoked outside were dealt with by yourselves. As geniuses, if you need the Academy's protection for everything, then what's the point of talking about the martial path? But soon, Dean Qin enunciated each word clearly. Dean Qin, you're very impressive. You only dare to be arrogant in front of your own people, but when others bully you, you don't dare to retaliate. Instead, you let your disciples deal with them. How ironic, how ironic. Lin Ling sneered. Lin Ling, might not be considered a big shot, but the battle on the drill ground and the Pride Tournament have greatly increased the glory of Resplendent Academy. Is this how you, Dean Qin, treat your own disciples? You're rebelling, you're rebelling. No matter how glib your tongue is, the rules are the rules. If you dare to kill a generation, you'll have to pay with your life. Chapter 2688. Retreat. Her body did not move, but a powerful energy condensed around her. She was like a god that could cover the sky. With her strength, she might not even need to use 10% of her strength to deal with Lin Ling. Lin Ling is dead. Sigh. Everyone sighed inwardly. In truth, they agreed with Lin Ling's words. As geniuses of the Resplendent Academy, they had won glory for the Academy time and time again. But now that they had offended an outsider, the Academy actually ignored them and let them handle it. This was too chilling. Most importantly, it was one thing for the dean to not help her own disciple, but to attack her own people? If not for Dean Qin's strength being too strong, they would have said that she was bullying the weak and fearing the strong. You don't dare to kill me. Sigh. However, just as Dean Qin's god's palm was about to reach him, Lin Ling remained standing there with his hands behind his back. What a proud young man. At this moment the third generation, second generation, and even the first generation began to worship Lin Ling. What a joke. Sigh. However, Dean Qin snorted disdainfully. In front of her, Lin Ling could be arrogant? Not to mention a mere Lin Ling. Even Vice Dean Gong had to lower his voice in front of her. However, Lin Ling's next sentence caused Dean Qin's pupils to constrict. I'm no longer a member of Resplendent Academy. Sigh. The terrifying palm stopped in front of Lin Ling. What did you say? Dean Qin's eyes narrowed. The expressions of the surrounding people changed. Lin Ling said that he was no longer a member of Resplendent Academy? What did that mean? Lin Ling, don't be rash. Vice Dean Gong and Ancestor Dragon Granny suddenly thought of something and immediately shouted. As geniuses of Resplendent Academy, they are not allowed to kill each other. Otherwise, it would be a violation of the Academy's rules. However, cultivators from the outer realm can kill geniuses of the Academy. Resplendent Academy has always said that they should settle their own problems. This means that Resplendent Academy will not interfere in the affairs of cultivators from the outer realm. And now, I've killed Xueqi. What does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with your Resplendent Academy? Lin Ling stared at Dean Qin and said calmly. What do you mean? Dean Qin seemed to have guessed something, and her mood became complicated. Hearing this, Lin Ling didn't say anything. He waved his right hand and the broken jade token on the ground fell into his hand. At this moment, Lin Ling had already trampled it into pieces. As he looked at the broken jade token, the corners of Lin Ling's mouth curled up into a mocking smile, and he lightly waved his right hand. The jade tablet floated in the air and scattered like flower petals. I'm withdrawing. It was accompanied by an indifferent voice. Boom. Everyone felt as if their hearts were about to explode. They stared at the broken jade tablets that were falling from the sky and recalled those words. It was as if their hearts had been ruthlessly stabbed by a knife. Withdraw from the academy. The most monstrous genius in the history of Resplendent Academy had withdrawn from the academy. At this moment, it was as if a magnitude 9 earthquake had occurred in Radiant Academy. Lin Ling, no. Vice Dean Gong was the first to shout, shaking his head constantly. Lin Ling had helped Resplendent Academy obtain glory several times, and he was also the genius that Vice Dean Gong thought highly of. In the past, when Lin Ling fought against Genji in the Pride Tournament, Vice Dean Gong chose Genji and asked Lin Ling to forfeit the match. However, who knew that Lin Ling would reject his request and continue to fight? Instead, he defeated Genji and won first place in the Pride Tournament. At that time, he knew that Lin Ling couldn't be underestimated. He also knew that he had let Lin Ling down. And now, Lin Ling had chosen to withdraw from the academy. This was the first thing he didn't agree to, and he felt that it was a loss for Resplendent Academy. As for Ancestor Long, she and Vice Dean Gong both cast their gazes on Dean Qin. However, at this moment, Dean Qin was silent, and her eyes were mixed with complicated emotions. Lin Ling withdrawing from the academy was something she didn't want to see. This was because although Lin Ling was arrogant and unruly, he was indeed capable. However, Lin Ling had withdrawn from the academy in front of her. Did he still think that she was the dean? After you leave, don't ever come back. Dean Qin shouted coldly. Hearing this, everyone's heart trembled. They knew that Dean Qin couldn't put down her face, so her attitude was firm. Lin Ling was also decisive enough to give up his endless future in Resplendent Academy. It would be good if such a person didn't grow up, but if he soared to the sky, he would definitely be a terrifying figure. Please remember, I'm the one withdrawing from the academy, not Resplendent Academy. Lin Ling didn't even look at Dean Qin as he enunciated each word clearly. You. Dean Qin wanted to say something, but obviously, she couldn't say anything. If she had expelled Lin Ling, she could still retain some dignity, but now that Lin Ling had withdrawn himself, it felt as if Lin Ling had abandoned her. You think you can leave just because you want to? She shouted angrily, unwilling to be trampled on by a junior. Dean Qin, you're the dean of an academy, and also a powerful figure in Qing province, so please don't go back on your words. Remember what you said before. The academy will ignore the cultivators from outside who came to kill the academy's geniuses. Now that I've killed Xueqi, I'm a cultivator from outside. So, are you going to go back on your words and attack me? Lin Ling's fearless voice drifted over, causing Dean Qin to stop in her tracks. Previously, she had personally admitted that the academy's geniuses had been hunted by cultivators from outside and they had dealt with it themselves. Now, she had the nerve to stand up for Xueqi? If she attacked, she would be going back on her words. If a dean went back on her words, how could she lead Resplendent Academy? Seeing Dean Qin speechless, the crowd shook their heads. Their gazes once again fell on Lin Ling, only to discover that Lin Ling was even more unyielding than they had imagined. He would rather withdraw from the academy than lower his head. He would rather withdraw from the academy than compromise. He was also very stubborn. Under the sunlight, the youth's figure grew longer and longer, gradually disappearing from everyone's sight. What he left behind was only endless glory and legends. In the battle on the drill ground, he was the #1 second-generation rookie. In the Pride Tournament, he was the strongest second generation. He killed his way into Four Ring City, not fearing authority, only for the peaceful place in his heart that he had to protect. All of this was the pride that the youth had left behind. What a pity! Many people secretly shook their heads. In the past 3 years, Lin Ling had disappeared without a trace. They thought that Lin Ling had declined, but who knew that Lin Ling would erupt in silence, suddenly appearing out of nowhere and defeating Xueqi. He even dared to confront Dean Qin, shocking the world with a single brilliant feat. Sigh. Vice Dean Gong and Ancestor Dragon Granny sighed, secretly blaming Dean Qin in their hearts. After leaving Resplendent Academy, he's just a piece of trash. Everything he has today was given to him by Resplendent Academy. I'd like to see how miserable he'll be without Resplendent Academy. However, Dean Qin did not feel any pity. Instead, she sneered. Lin Ling had offended many experts. If he went out to roam Qingzhou, he would definitely end up as a pile of bones outside the city. Dean Qin, don't think that Lin Ling's current glory was given to him by Resplendent Academy. In fact, it was obtained through Lin Ling's own efforts. Let's not talk about other things. Just take the siege of Four Ring City as an example. Resplendent Academy did not provide any support, so don't think too highly of yourself. Chapter 2689. Stop Lin Ling. Also, I hope you won't regret your actions today. Next year, you will realize how laughable your words are. Shen Yuangur sneered. They believed in Lin Ling. You dare to speak to me like that? Dean Qin was furious. I'm sorry, but I'm not from Resplendent Academy. I'll withdraw. However, Yu Yu and the rest just smiled and threw the jade token on their waist to the ground. Falling flowers, flowing water and the rest did the same. We'll withdraw as well. After saying that, the group of people followed Lin Ling without hesitation. Go, go, go. After you leave, don't ever come back. You'll regret it. Withdraw. Dean Qin couldn't help but roar as her students withdrew one after another. This undoubtedly caused her to lose her dignity. However, Yu Yu and the rest didn't stop. Instead, they left as if they had removed some shackles. How courageous! Wow! Everyone secretly admired them. After all, entering one of the three great academies was the dream of all geniuses. However, those fellows didn't even frown when they withdrew. The news of Lin Ling's withdrawal spread throughout the Resplendent Academy in a short period of time. This was also the time when the geniuses of the three great academies were interacting. Therefore, there were more people than usual. It can't be, someone actually withdrew? Is that guy crazy? Hee, if it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't dare. However, that person is Lin Ling. There's nothing he doesn't dare to do. Lin Ling, he's still alive? Many of the second generation and first generation were shocked when they received the news. Lin Ling left with Yu Yu and the rest. Everywhere they passed, there were sounds of discussion. Those geniuses were all looking at Lin Ling in shock. Withdrawal. This was the first time in the history of Resplendent Academy. Moreover, Lin Ling defeated Zui Yu and became the 28th in the sky-surpassing academy. Someone shouted, causing the surrounding geniuses to breathe heavily. Was this the coward Lin Ling they had imagined? Lin Ling, stop right there. You only have your current achievements because of the cultivation resources of the Resplendent Academy. Do you really think you can leave just because you want to withdraw? At this moment, on the flight of stairs leading to the exit of the Resplendent Academy, an old man bellowed furiously. Many people turned to look at the old man who had spoken, and their expressions turned solemn. Because that was Elder Xia Ren. This elder and Lin Ling were old enemies. Today, when he saw that Lin Ling had left the courtyard, he came out to make things difficult for him. As the saying goes, the king of hell is easy to block, but the little ghosts are hard to deal with. Dean Qin didn't dare to touch Lin Ling because of his status, but Elder Xia Ren wouldn't. However, under everyone's gaze, Lin Ling and the rest continued to walk forward. Lin Ling even muttered to himself, "Where did this old dog come from?" Lord Lin Ling is right. If a dog bites a man, do you think we should bite the dog back? Falling flowers, flowing water, and the rest replied with a smile. Old dog? Everyone looked at Xia Ren and realized that the old man's half-dead appearance really did look like an old dog. At this moment, they were secretly laughing. Lin Ling, stop right there. Xia Ren's wrinkled face bloomed like a flower, and a powerful aura erupted from him. He seemed to be about to make a move on Lin Ling. Unfortunately, Lin Ling turned a blind eye. He didn't even look at Elder Xia Ren and said, "You don't dare." His words carried a fearless and arrogant aura of the Azure Prefecture. Elder Xia Ren's face was filled with anger. He wanted to make a move, but in the end, he stopped himself. He really didn't dare. Because even Dean Qin didn't make a move. It seemed like the dean was waiting for something. Maybe she wanted to see Lin Ling's miserable appearance after leaving the Resplendent Academy. Therefore, if he made a move, he might go against the dean's wishes. Moreover, according to the dean's rules, he didn't have the qualifications to make a move. Elder Xia Ren really doesn't dare. Seeing this, many people started whispering. Their eyes were fixed on the blue-robed youth, and their eyes were burning with passion. How awe-inspiring! How domineering! Facing the former Elder Xia Ren, Lin Ling didn't even look at him. He only said one sentence, "You don't dare." And Elder Xiaoren really didn't dare. Elder Xiaoren was so angry that he kept coughing. However, he gave a girl beside him a look. The girl immediately understood and shouted, "Everyone, don't treat him as a genius of the Resplendent Academy. Right now, he's an outsider. Moreover, he humiliated our Resplendent Academy. If we really have a backbone, we shouldn't let him leave. We are all cultivators. We must have dignity," the woman said with a strong sense of righteousness. After she finished speaking, she shot towards Lin Ling and actually stood in front of Lin Ling. She was like a brave warrior who didn't fear death. However, Lin Ling obviously recognized her because she was Lu Hongyan. Previously, she came to his market with Xiaoren and wanted to obtain the rainforest market through a bet. "Where's your godfather?" Lin Ling asked. These words were like salt to a wound, causing Lu Hongyan's body to tremble. That day, she and Lin Ling competed in alchemy. After losing, she personally called Xiaoren godfather. Most importantly, she even kissed Xiaoren's old face. Currently, in the academy, many people were secretly calling her a lewd woman. "Lin Ling, don't twist right and wrong. Today you betrayed the Resplendent Academy. Do you still have a conscience? Do you know how much effort the Resplendent Academy put in to nurture you? However, you just said that you're leaving and ignored it. You really don't deserve to be a cultivator." Lu Hongyan tried to change the topic. She shouted, "You can leave if you want, but you have to leave everything the Resplendent Academy gave you behind. I, Lu Hongyan, have no enmity with you. However, the Resplendent Academy is my home. I can't bear to see the Academy being humiliated by you." Her voice became louder and louder. In the end, her eyes were moist. It was as if she really did stand up for the Academy. When these words fell, falling flowers, flowing water, and the others exploded in anger. Lu Hongyan obviously wanted to kill Lin Ling, but she still spoke with a strong sense of righteousness. What a hypocrite! However, with the words of a delicate girl and the fact that Lin Ling had offended the Resplendent Academy, many people stepped forward to uphold justice. Among the second generation, most of them worshipped Lin Ling. The first generation was the opposite. They couldn't wait for Lin Ling to stay. Perhaps, they didn't want to admit that Lin Ling had surpassed them. "Lin Ling, you're heartless." "That's right. If you want to leave, then cripple your own cultivation. How can you forget your roots? If you don't cripple your cultivation, you won't be able to leave here today. I, your senior brother, am the most impartial person, but I won't help you." The first generation continued to speak as if they were standing on the side of justice. Cripple his cultivation? Hearing this, falling flowers, flowing water, and the others gritted their teeth. If Lord Lin Ling crippled his cultivation, wouldn't that be the same as dying? These people were using this opportunity to kill Lin Ling. As for Xiaoren, his old face was filled with a sinister smile. He didn't dare to make a move against Lin Ling, but as geniuses of the same generation, they could. Chapter 2690. Lawless. Anyone who blocks the way will be killed. I'm not leaving. I'm going to stand up for Resplendent Academy. Lu Hongyan gritted her teeth as if she was going to go all out. However, her eyes were filled with pride. Currently, Lin Ling was indeed stronger than her. However, she didn't need to do anything to kill Lin Ling. All she needed to do was to infuriate the crowd. Stand up for Resplendent Academy. Lin Ling sneered. When he was besieged in Four Ring City, other than Vice Principal Gong, who else from Resplendent Academy had come to help him? He was stopped by the Sovereign Marquis. Other than the 6 tribes, who else had come to help him? Now, he owed Resplendent Academy? If you're not leaving, then stay here forever. Lin Ling's voice was even colder. His killing intent was overflowing. I'm not leaving even if I die. However, Lu Hongyan didn't know that Lin Ling wanted to kill her. She thought that Lin Ling was afraid of her and didn't want to leave. Of course this was normal. How could a mere Lin Ling dare to go against the entire Resplendent Academy? Unfortunately, she didn't know that the one who would stay here forever wasn't Lin Ling, but her. Bang! Lin Ling smiled. In the next moment, he threw out a punch like a ferocious tiger descending the mountain. How could Lu Hongyan react to that punch? When the punch landed on Lu Hongyan's body, her pupils constricted. Her internal organs were immediately overturned, and her meridians and bones were shattered. She was going to die. At that moment, this was the only thought in her mind. It turned out that she was the one who would stay here forever. Bang! In the next moment, her body exploded into pieces. Blood danced on the steps. Before she died, she finally realized that she had been used by her master, Xia Ren. You actually killed one of your own. You're lawless. Xia Ren was stunned. His old face was filled with pain. Lu Hongyan was his confidant, and he was very happy that she was good at martial arts. However, she was killed by Lin Ling with a single punch. The surrounding disciples were also terrified. Lin Ling, who killed her just because of a disagreement. How dare you? Junior sister Lu was just giving you some advice, and you actually killed her. A person like you isn't a genius of Resplendent Academy. You can do whatever you want. Catch him. The second-generation disciples didn't dare to speak, but the first-generation disciples all shouted out. They didn't believe that with so many people present, Lin Ling would be able to continue acting like a tyrant. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled. It was a bloodthirsty smile. Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword, and the others were the same. Lu Hongyan was clearly doing this on purpose. Could it be that Lin Ling was going to kowtow and beg for forgiveness? Junior sister. Does a filthy woman who sells her body have the qualifications to be Lord Lin Ling's junior sister? Moreover, Lord Lin Ling is no longer a genius of Radiant Academy. The chess boy and the others spoke one after another. Their words stunned the first-generation members, and they had no words to refute them. I can only say that you are all trash. The Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword spoke again. His words were like a sword that pierced deeply into the heart of the first-generation successor. Don't mislead us with your words. One by one, figures shot down from behind and stood on the stairs. A powerful aura quietly spread out. If you want to leave, cripple your own cultivation. I, Zhang Feng, will immediately make way for you. Don't forget your roots. Junior brother Lin Ling. Be careful of your heart's devil. You want to leave? Not unless I agree to it. These people were all first-generation successors. They wore golden robes that represented their status. Some of them had their hands behind their backs, some looked up at the sky, and some stroked their swords. Each of them had their own unique characteristics. If ordinary people put on such a posture, they would definitely be mocked and thought that they were deliberately mystifying things. However, they were first-generation successors. This gave people a feeling of arrogance and even made people worship them. Seeing this, Lin Ling sneered. These people probably didn't know about Xueqi's defeat. Are you sure you want to stop me? We're not stopping you. We're just trying to wake you up. The first person spoke first. Most importantly, he didn't even look at Lin Ling. Instead, he stared at the top of the stairs because more and more people were gathering there. There were first-generation successors from other academies. Therefore, this was his time to shine. However, just as he finished speaking, a ferocious fist blasted toward him. Do you really want to die? That person laughed sarcastically and shook his head in disdain. My name is Feng Zhongfei. I have the speed of 4 realms. I can easily dodge this punch of yours. However, since I'm trying to stop you, I won't dodge. He reached out his palm, wanting to shock everyone with a single move. Unfortunately, he thought too much. The power of the realm-swallowing beast was not something that he could stop. Boom! A punch blasted toward him. His arm was severed. If he hadn't used his ultimate technique at the critical moment and escaped to the other side, he would have been killed by the punch. With one punch, he stepped aside. This made everyone at the top of the mountain speechless. Feng Zhongfei was so weak? I'd like to see how you're going to stop me. Boom. At this moment, Lin Ling was like a dragon flying in the sky. He stepped straight down. Boom, 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 boom. His fist looked ordinary, but it had the power to destroy 10 realms. Wherever it passed, no first-generation successor could stop it. Their limbs were severed, and the weaker ones were directly killed. Lin Ling had transformed into the realm-swallowing beast. He was on a killing spree. Boom, boom, boom. The stairs were suddenly dyed red with blood. Dull sounds kept coming out. Those who blocked his path all exploded and died. This feeling of defeat, this momentum that could sweep away 1,000 soldiers, was shocking. On the stairs, the eyes of the crowd trembled fiercely. Although many people knew that Lin Ling was not weak, those who blocked his path were all first-generation successors. They already had the advantage in numbers. However, it was useless. Lin Ling violently opened a path and killed with his fists. How is this possible? My awakened godly body is useless against him. God! Heavens! He broke my sword with one punch. Run! 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 Those first-generation successors who were in all kinds of postures changed their expressions. They hurriedly made way for him. They were as pathetic as they could be. Because if they did not leave, they would be killed by his fists. Mercy! 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 Those who ran slower were so scared that they knelt down, kowtowing and begging for mercy. Boom! Lin Ling raised his leg and stomped down like a battle axe. Then, a dull sound rang out. Blood bloomed like flowers. That first-generation successor was stomped to death. A first-generation successor was an expert that countless people looked up to. But now, he was like a lamb, begging for mercy. He even knelt down. So scary. I'm not coming anymore. No. The remaining first-generation successors immediately reacted. They knew that begging for mercy was useless. They could only make way for him. You're smart. If you dare to block my path again, you'll die. Die! Lin Ling coldly shouted. His blue robe fluttered as he walked down the stairs. He had been patient before, but now, his patience had reached its limit. He was going to leave Resplendent Academy. Anyone who did not obey him would be killed. Let's see who dares to stop him. Falling flowers and flowing water sword followed Lin Ling, proudly walking down the stairs. They also wanted to see who dared to block them. You're Lin Ling. However, at this moment, a cold voice suddenly rang out. At the bottom of the stairs, several figures stood there. One of them narrowed his eyes and spoke. His small eyes were emitting a cold light. Who is that? He dares to block Lin Ling? Looking at the person who spoke, the geniuses on the stairs exclaimed. Lin Ling had opened a path with violence. Ordinary people had been scared away. But now, there were still people blocking his path. This was too surprising. It's the Black Faction's senior brother. Chapter 2691. You're already crippled. Shen Faction, the fifth-ranked genius of the Resplendent Academy? Many people had heard of this name before, and their expressions changed drastically. The Resplendent Academy didn't have many disciples, but there were still over 1,000 of them. To be able to be ranked 6th, his strength was definitely not undeserved. Most importantly, this Shen Faction was ranked 18th in the Sky-Surpassing Academy. One must know that the difference in the Sky-Surpassing Academy was a difference in strength. Being ranked 18th, there was no need to doubt his strength. Good, Shen Faction's senior brother is going to stop Lin Ling. Everyone was looking forward to it. After all, if they let Lin Ling leave just like that, the Resplendent Academy would lose face. However, under everyone's gaze, Lin Ling ignored the Shen Faction. Instead, he held the hands of Yu and continued to walk down the stairs. A good flight of stairs is actually dyed red with blood. How ironic. Lin Ling even said with a smile. Big Brother Ling is right. There are quite a few of us who have returned here. We originally wanted to leave a good impression, but others don't want to lose face. They shed all pretense of cordiality and still want to make things difficult for us. That's right. Don't tell me we're not allowed to leave the academy? Shen Yuan-Gur sniffled and also replied. The three of them talked and laughed, as if they didn't know that they were the focus of everyone's attention. Did you not hear my words? The Shen Faction finally frowned and said in a low voice. Because Lin Ling was actually ignoring him. Even the few people beside him narrowed their eyes. Did these juniors know what they were doing? This Resplendent Academy has a few good people. For example, Senior Long, Senior Dandelion, and Vice Principal Gong. Unfortunately, the principal of the Resplendent Academy simply takes advantage of her seniority and can't differentiate right from wrong. At this moment, Yu said to Lin Ling again. Who cares about her? We're not asking for help anyway. Lin Ling shrugged and said to Yu. The few of them were still ignoring the Shen Faction, causing the people above to suck in a breath of cold air. Although Lin Ling was strong, he was only ranked 28th on the Heavenly Crossing list. In the future, Lin Ling might be able to catch up with the Xian faction's senior brother. But now, how could he? Lin Ling was courting death. Many people secretly prayed for Lin Ling. They felt that Lin Ling would not be able to leave Resplendent Academy. Did you hear me? At this moment, Xian Pai's patience had run out. His voice made the surroundings even colder. Some of the weaker geniuses were trembling and didn't even dare to look at Xian Pai. I know what you're talking about. The cold aura seemed to freeze the front of the stairs, and Lin Ling finally stopped. I thought you would keep pretending that you didn't hear me. Seeing this, Xian Pai narrowed his eyes. You asked me if I was Lin Ling. This means that you don't know me, right? Lin Ling also looked over. When he said this, Xian Pai laughed sarcastically, thinking that Lin Ling's brain was stupid. Before he could say anything, the people beside him sneered. Aren't you talking nonsense? Who do you think you are, that Xian Pai senior brother would know you? Since you don't know me, then why should I answer your question? Lin Ling ignored their sarcastic words and said indifferently. Since I don't know you, why should I care about you? Who do you think you are? The last sentence floated out. Frivolous, overbearing, unrestrained. The entire stairs seemed to be suppressed. The people above were like cicadas in winter. They all thought that Lin Ling was dead for sure. He actually dared to speak to Xian Pai's senior brother like that. One must know that in the 3 academies, there were no more than 20 people who dared to speak to Xian Pai like that. Sure enough, Xian Pai's body moved slightly, and his pupils constricted. He was angry. He came here out of curiosity. He wanted to see the first genius in the history of Resplendent Academy to leave. Therefore, he asked Lin Ling a question. In his opinion, Lin Ling should respectfully answer. But who knew that Lin Ling would ignore him, and even ask him who he was? Junior brother, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. You have already offended Xian Pai's senior brother. Immediately kneel down and beg for mercy. Before Xian Pai could say anything, a young man walked out from the side and blocked Lin Ling's path. He stepped onto the stairs. It's Zhang Tegu, the 7th strongest generation of Resplendent Academy, ranked 26th on the Heaven Crossing list. Seeing this, many people were looking forward to it. Today, there were many geniuses blocking Lin Ling's path, and none of them were weak. It seemed that the upper echelons of the Academy would not make a move against Lin Ling, but they planned to let the geniuses of the Academy do it. And with these powerful geniuses, it was enough to suppress Lin Ling. They wanted to let Lin Ling know how lowly he was, and how miserable he would be after leaving the Academy. What's your name? At this moment, Lin Ling did not know the expectations of the crowd. Instead, he looked indifferently at the young man in front of him. Zhang Tegu, ranked 7th in the strongest generation. The young man raised his chin and said indifferently, I have a grudge with you. Lin Ling asked again. No, but you offended Xian Pai's senior brother. The young man laughed disdainfully. I offended Xian Pai's senior brother, so you came out to help him? Zhang Tegu, right? You're considered one of the best in your generation, but unfortunately, you have no position and only know how to rely on others. You've forgotten the heart of martial arts and only want to follow the strong. You'd better take down the 4 words of the strongest generation yourself. However, Lin Ling's calm words stunned Zhang Tegu, and his expression began to change. He was indeed one of the strongest generation, but he did not have his own martial arts and only knew how to worship others. This meant that he would be behind others for the rest of his life, and would never stand out. Zhang Tegu shouted angrily. In fact, how could he not know that Lin Ling was affecting his heart of martial arts? But even if he knew, he was still shaken. Because, Lin Ling was right. Ever since he lost to Xian Pai's senior brother, he had lost the ability to fight. In this life, he had never thought of surpassing Xian Pai, only wanting to follow behind him. If he was an ordinary person it would be fine, but he was one of the strongest generation. If he had no fighting spirit, he might as well take down the title of the strongest generation. A true martial artist is his own world. I am the heavens, I am the earth. My heart is strong, tenacious, and will only continue to surpass my idol. I will not blindly follow. You're obviously crippled. Seeing Zhang Tegu's appearance, Lin Ling smiled coldly. He took a step forward, and the aura of an expert filled the air. It was like the pressure of heaven and earth, and it made it difficult for Zhang Tegu to breathe. Lin Ling was the reincarnation of Li Xiaoyao, and he had seen a lot. His casual reprimand was like the wind of a sect leader. His words, his steps, made Zhang Tugu subconsciously take a step back, and he felt that something was suppressed in his heart, and it was very uncomfortable. There was only one sentence in his mind. Am I crippled? Of course, if Lin Ling casually bewitched him, he naturally would not believe it. However, over the years, his progress was slow, and he had been following Xian Pai's senior brother. He also thought that he was indeed crippled. Chapter 2692. Why don't you try blocking my way? When everyone saw this scene, they were all shocked like celestials. He was the dignified strongest of the generation, yet he was actually provoked to vomit blood by Lin Ling with just a few words. This was too fantastical. Zhang Tugu, if you waver and cannot find your heart of martial arts, not only will you be crippled, you will be like a walking corpse, living a life worse than death. At this time, Lin Ling took another step forward. His words were like swords that pierced Zhang Tugu's heart. Walking dead. Zhang Tugu's face turned paler and paler. He covered his ears with both hands as if he was trying to prevent the demonic sound from entering his ears. Zhang Tugu, don't forget your goal. But at this moment, the senior brother of the Xian sect also spoke, and his voice was mixed with anger. This time, Zhang Tugu felt as if his mind was about to explode. Should he stick to himself, or should he listen to the senior brother of the Xian sect? You can't go up, and you can't go down. Coward, die. Upon seeing this, Lin Ling shook his head. He was too lazy to save Zhang Tonggu. He simply threw out a punch. The power of the realm-swallowing beast exploded. Bang! A muffled sound immediately rang out, accompanied by the sound of bones shattering. Zhang Tugu was stunned as he looked down at the fist in his chest. That punch had shattered all the bones in his body. This time, he seemed to have woken up. You attacked me, he muttered to himself. Previously, Lin Ling's words had distracted his attention. Coupled with the fact that he indeed had a knot in his heart, Lin Ling's punch landed easily. Most importantly, he sensed that the power of this punch was extremely terrifying. It had destroyed his life force. Because you stepped on the steps, Lin Ling said coldly. He walked past him and placed his right hand on the side of his head. Then he gave him a push. His movements were clean and direct, free and unrestrained. Plop! Zhang Tugu fell down and rolled down the steps like a gourd. He landed at the foot of the mountain and no one knew whether he was dead or alive. This scene caused the Resplendent Academy to become even more silent. Even in the depths of Resplendent Academy, the upper echelons of the academy were watching this scene. They were purposely not making an appearance, allowing the geniuses of the academy to block Lin Ling. But who would have thought that Zhang Tugu would also be defeated, and be defeated so thoroughly? And this was the Lin Ling that was abandoned by Dean Qin? At this moment, many higher-ups of the academy had complicated feelings. Relying on his lotus flower tongue to bewitch Zhang Tugu's heart of martial arts. Otherwise, he would have been stopped long ago. However, there were still some people who disdained Lin Ling. These elders naturally sided with Dean Qin. However, they were not in a hurry because the Xian sect would stop Lin Ling. After all, if Lin Ling was allowed to leave Resplendent Academy safely today, Dean Qin would lose face, and Resplendent Academy would lose its honor. The other two great academies would laugh at them even more. They didn't want such a genius like Lin Ling and actually abandoned him. Was Dean Qin stupid? Therefore, the Xian sect could not be defeated. In fact, all the geniuses of Resplendent Academy had this thought. In their opinion, it was impossible for Lin Ling to sweep away the geniuses of Resplendent Academy. He could not leave with pride. He could only leave Resplendent Academy dejectedly. In this way, if he withdrew, others would think that Resplendent Academy had abandoned him. What a waste. You're not even qualified to be my follower. At this moment, the Xian sect finally spoke. He also knew that it was time for him to make a move. What was chilling was that Zhang Tugu had fought for him before. After being defeated, not only did he not sympathize, he was extremely disdainful. Zhang Tugu had obviously followed the wrong person. The Xian sect looked at Lin Ling, waiting for Lin Ling to speak to him. However, Lin Ling, who was on the stairs, did not even look at him. He continued to lead you and the others forward. Are you afraid of me? Seeing this, the Xian sect could not help but laugh. Previously, Lin Ling was so arrogant, but in the end, he did not even have the courage to look at him. It was really disappointing. It seems that Lin Ling is afraid of the Xian sect senior brother. That's for sure. The Xian sect senior brother is the 18th generation. Although Lin Ling is powerful, he is still weaker than the Xian sect senior brother. The people on the mountaintop were not surprised by Lin Ling's actions. Because their strength was inferior, they were afraid, so they did not dare to speak or even look at the Xian sect senior brother. This was because the Xian sect senior brother was in the 6th level of True God and had a first-grade divine body, the invincible war god body. This was the successor of the Eastern Borders war god sect. It was said that this bloodline had the same lifespan as Huanyu and had endless history. He was a true battle maniac. Although you are afraid of me, do you think that you can leave Resplendent Academy without leaving anything behind? The Xian sect turned around and looked at Lin Ling indifferently. No matter where it is, even if it is a military camp, if anyone wants to leave, they have to pay a price. This is the price. Lin Ling, look at me directly. Running away is useless. The Xian sect said word by word. His long hair also danced wildly. So powerful, no one in Resplendent Academy can stop Lin Ling, but the Xian sect senior brother can. He is our only spiritual support. Seeing this, the people who were silent earlier also cheered. Even the upper echelons of the academy could not help but laugh. Even if they had no enmity with Lin Ling, even if they thought highly of Lin Ling, for the sake of the academy's honor, they would sacrifice Lin Ling and make Lin Ling return in disgrace. Because Lin Ling provoked the Resplendent Academy. Trash. At this moment, Xia Ren's spirit trembled and he could not help but shout. Trash. After his voice was heard, many people also echoed his words. However, Lin Ling continued to walk forward, ignoring them. Haha, you are indeed a trash. Seeing this, the Xian sect could not help but laugh towards the sky. There was an indescribable pride and an indescribable spirit. It's time for your nonsense to end. However, at this moment, Lin Ling finally spoke. What? Are you going to face reality? A trash like you is not completely useless. You finally dare to say a word to me. The Xian sect shook his head in disdain and stared at Lin Ling with contempt. I'm too lazy to talk to you because I don't care about a dog's barking. But you say I'm afraid of you? Lin Ling continued to walk forward, his voice ice cold. Isn't that the case? If you're not afraid of me, why don't you stop walking? The sneer on the Xian sect's face became even thicker. Lin Ling, even at death's door, was still stubborn. In fact, everyone thought so too. Lin Ling was unwilling to lose face and was just showing off his strength. Stop walking? With just you? Lin Ling still spoke, but his next sentence caused the entire Resplendent Academy, and even the other 2 academies to fall silent. You try blocking the way. This sentence was like a bolt from the blue. Only now did people realize that Lin Ling only attacked those who blocked the stairs. No wonder he didn't care about the Xian sect before. So that's how it was. And the ironic thing was, they actually thought that Lin Ling was afraid and didn't dare to speak. For a moment, he suddenly felt like a clown. Lin Ling was still ignoring him. The reason why he didn't make a move was because he didn't appear on the steps. If he stepped on the steps, Lin Ling would definitely make a move. Chapter 2693. Ranked 18th in the strongest generation. As you wish. Xian Pai immediately roared, the war god's blood erupted, and like a giant, he shot towards Lin Ling, and fiercely smashed onto the stairs. Boom! The entire Resplendent Academy was in an uproar. The terrifying aura of the war god caused everyone to have difficulty breathing. Look below! Many people even pointed at the tunnel in fear. They saw an ancient war god standing there. His long hair danced in the wind, and a white armor appeared. He was wise and mighty. Around him, the gods of war had also descended. Court of the gods. The bloodline of the war god. It said that once this talent appears, any martial artist's bloodline and bones will turn into nothingness, suppressed by the aura of the war god. Some of the academy's higher-ups exclaimed in surprise. The bloodline of the war god could battle the heavens and the earth, and they would never be defeated. Their auras were extremely terrifying. It was rumored that the war god bloodline was one of the first ancient people to learn martial arts in the chaos of the universe. Later generations learned martial arts by following in their footsteps. Come, Lin Ling. I'm already blocking your path. Let me see if you're afraid of me, trash. At this moment, a loud shout rang out. Xian Pai proudly pointed at Lin Ling. What is a war god? What is a trash? It is clear at a glance. How impressive. Looking at the Xian sect's senior brother who was like a god of war, countless people's blood boiled. The sixth strongest generation of the Resplendent Academy, the 18th generation of the Sky-Surpassing Academy, was indeed terrifying. They looked at the war gods around the profound sect, and a terrifying thought arose in their minds. Those war gods couldn't be the existence that could tear apart the ancient dragon and suppress the Qilin, right? Now that such a terrifying existence had appeared, would Lin Ling still dare to talk back? This was obviously impossible. Being able to defeat Xueqi didn't mean everything. Lin Ling would definitely choose to kneel down and beg for mercy, and then leave the academy with his tail between his legs. Bang! However, just as they thought of this, a rumble immediately sounded, causing everyone to be dumbfounded. This was because Lin Ling, who was on the steps, shot down the mountain like a cannonball. At this moment, he was also like a god of war. Lin Ling didn't seem to be afraid from the beginning to the end. He didn't make a move before because the Xian sect didn't appear on the steps. However, as long as they dared to step on the steps, even if it was a god, Lin Ling would dare to fight. Crazy. This was the only word people could use to describe Lin Ling. Defeat him. In the depths of the academy, the higher-ups were secretly shouting coldly. Among them, Dean Qin was the most excited. It was fine for Lin Ling to withdraw from the academy, but the Resplendent Academy wasn't a place where one could come and go as one pleased. Therefore, he could only fight his way out. It's useless. Under my war god bloodline, your bones, organs, and blood will all turn into nothingness. My noble war god bloodline can make millions of ants submit to me. Staring at the figure that was shooting down, Xian Pai roared towards the sky and punched out. The ancient moon heavenly sun wrapped around the war god fist and struck out mightily. This war god fist was also the original form of all war god martial arts in the 10,000 worlds. When the fist wind came out, some of the weaker ones in the distance felt their blood disappear and their cultivation continued to drop. This godly body was too heaven-defying. It could actually affect one's cultivation realm. An irresistible force attacked, causing Lin Ling's eyes to flash. Behind him, a scene of a divine beast roaring appeared, and a huge mouth appeared. World-swallowing beast. That terrifying huge mouth opened wide and swallowed all of Xian Pai's attacking force. It was terrifying. Shill. Shill. At the same time, 100 swords flew across the sky and shot towards Xian Pai like meteors. It was the Shura sword formation. The 3 swords were the emperors of swords. They pierced through the void to kill the war god. What godly body is this? Xian Pai's eyes flashed slightly. That godly body was too strange. It was actually a mouth. Moreover, that mouth gave him a familiar feeling. It seemed to be a world-swallowing beast. However, how could someone's talent be a world-swallowing beast? This must be fake. What's the use? In front of me, the war god. You are just a piece of trash. As his fist blasted out, the Shura sword formation that shot towards him were all swept away. They could not even withstand a single blow. That terrifying force made falling flowers, flowing water, and the others' faces change drastically. After all, Lin Ling's sword had always been extremely invincible. This was the first time they saw the sword formation being swept away. Moreover, it was swept away cleanly. Was the 18th strongest of the generation really that strong? Bang! Bang! At the same time, 2 roaring sounds were heard. Xian Pai raised both of his legs high and stepped on the ground respectively. It was as if he was rooted in the ground, causing the ground to crack continuously. Lin Ling, if you want to leave the courtyard, unless you go out on your knees, you will not be able to step over my big body. The roaring sound was heard at the same time. The war god blocked the way. Bang! 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 Under Xian Pai's voice, countless disciples could not stand still and were so shocked that they sat down on the ground. Their faces were full of shock. The aura that Xian Pai had released was probably enough to shatter 10 worlds. In the level 6 true god realm, he rarely had an opponent. One had to know that there were strong and weak level 6 true god realm experts. Rarely had an opponent, this proved that he was strong. 90% of the martial artists in the same realm could only kneel down and bow their heads when facing him. Lin Ling has failed. He is the first person in the history of the Resplendent Academy to withdraw from the courtyard. No, he should be the first person in the 3 great academies. Therefore, if he wants to break the rules, he must leave on his knees. That's right. If he leaves with pride and glory, not only the Resplendent Academy, but even the 3 great academies will have no face to speak of. Following which, the crowd shook their heads and discussed animatedly. Rumble. The space seemed to be distorted. The aura of the war god shrouded over, causing Lin Ling's eyes to flicker slightly. Xian Pai, level 6 true god realm, divine body, seemed to be one of the 100 great bloodlines in the universe. The 100 great bloodlines were, in fact, the most ancient bloodlines. It was said that when the heavens and earth were first created, all living beings did not practice martial arts. Later on, a different species was born. They reached the heavens and earth and created their own martial arts. In the end, they stepped onto the peak of the universe and left behind endless bloodlines for their descendants. These bloodlines became the 100 great bloodlines. There were a total of 100 types of bloodlines, and each of them was extremely powerful. Lin Ling's 10,000 elephant demonic eyes was also one of the 100 great bloodlines, and it was one of the 6 strongest talents in the divine eye system. No true god martial spirit? Lin Ling mumbled to himself. Xian Pai did not seem to have comprehended a true god martial spirit, but this did not mean that he was weak. The older the bloodline, the harder it was to comprehend a true god martial spirit. Even so, without a true god martial spirit, Xian Pai could easily defeat someone with a true god martial spirit. In terms of divine body, on the surface, Xian Pai's divine body is stronger than mine. However, my god demon body is the world-swallowing beast. In the universe there are no more than 5 people with this talent. Therefore, in terms of potential, my world-swallowing beast might not be weaker than his war god bloodline. And the advantage of the world-swallowing beast's divine body is that it can swallow the enemy's divine body pressure and power, which greatly increases my defense. Chapter 2694. The Strongest Flame Wheel. Lin Ling's mind raced and came to a conclusion. He could win. Lin Ling didn't need to think to kill an ordinary 6th-stage true god. However, Xian Pai was the strongest 6th-stage true god. He couldn't be underestimated. Flame coffin. Then, Lin Ling let out a low roar, causing the ferocious space-time fire to erupt. His body also disappeared into the ancient coffin. Is that the legendary flame coffin? Everyone stared at Lin Ling. When they realized that Lin Ling had entered the coffin, they were shocked. It had to be said that the flame coffin had become Lin Ling's symbol. Entering the coffin with flames, exiting the coffin, burning the world. Xian Pai obviously didn't know about Lin Ling's methods. With his seniority, he would only pay attention to the stronger generation. He had never heard of the fame that Lin Ling had created in the past. Boom! At the same time, the flame coffin exploded. A man covered in flames descended and shot towards Xian Pai. That speed had reached the speed of 5 realms. It was like a divine beast. So fast. The crowd could only see a line of fire streaking across the sky. Those who were weak couldn't even see anything. They could only feel a strong pressure pressing down on them. Is that the flame wheel? More people said solemnly. Because a huge fireball had appeared in the sky. It was a shocking sight. Once the flame coffin appeared, the flame wheel would destroy the world. This was a hot topic among the 2nd generation, and even the 1st generation. It was also a symbol of Lin Ling. In the 3 major academies, there might be many fire attribute experts. However, in the Resplendent Academy, Lin Ling was the #1 fire attribute expert. He was also the #1 fire attribute expert in the Resplendent Academy. Interesting. Xian Pai's mouth revealed an excited smile. His robe and hair danced wildly. The war gods behind him waved their fists. Following that punch, Xian Pai also punched. In the world, in terms of war gods' martial arts, my family is the authentic one. Fighting the heavens and fighting the earth. Invincible. Surging battle intent erupted. The bloodline of the war god was indeed the foundation of all war god martial arts. In reality, ever since Lin Ling started learning martial arts, he had already fought many geniuses who possessed Ares martial arts. But in terms of the orthodox, He was indeed from the Xian faction. But so what? This was because Lin Ling had unleashed his strongest wheel of flames. His cultivation was no longer the same as it was in the past. Most importantly, his fiend god physique had stepped into a whole new world. His defense and strength seemed to have been reborn, and after he fused with the wheel of flames, his might had increased by an entire 1/3. The huge fist and the fireball were about to collide in the air. At this moment, the geniuses of the three academies felt their blood boil as they waited anxiously. When one reached Lin Ling's level, the geniuses of the three great academies could only look up at his battles with others. Even those intense battles had benefited many people greatly. Maybe Lin Ling had left the academy, or maybe many people thought that he was too arrogant, but no matter what, Lin Ling was still one of the strongest of the three great academies. Who will win? It must be the senior brother of the Xian faction. He is ranked 18th. That's right, he has also been to the Five-Ring City. Solemn voices rang out one after another. Boom! Almost at the same time, the fist of the war god and the fireball collided. The ferocity of the collision was earth-shattering. The gigantic ancient fist let out a rumbling sound as it was sent flying by the surging fireball. Not good. Could it be that the senior brother of the Xian faction can't block Lin Ling's wheel of flames? Everyone's eyes widened, as if they were a celestial being. Even the higher-ups of the academies held their breaths as they were extremely nervous. Lin Ling, your strength can be ranked 20th. Zhang Tugu's defeat was not unjust. Unfortunately, your opponent is me. At this moment, the senior brother of the Xian faction was also shocked by Lin Ling's ferocity. The wheel of flames was like a divine beast, and he was unable to block it. That feeling, it was as if he was fighting against 10 realms. However, in the end, he was ranked 18th in the first generation. How could his strength be an undeserved reputation? The wind breaks the earth, the water overflows the sky, the fire burns the wilderness, the mountain frightens ghosts and gods, the thunder shatters the heaven and earth. Boom! The Xian faction roared. The deities behind him exploded with light that shot into the sky, destroying the clouds and reaching the heavens. Their fists turned into palms and slapped the back of the Xian faction. Suddenly, an unparalleled force entered the Xian faction's body. Facing the god of war, you are just trash. With the birth of a new force, the Xian faction's momentum rose. He punched out again, and it could destroy the sun, moon and stars. Rumble! The huge fireball was suddenly blocked by the fist, and it seemed like it was about to explode. This scene made many people finally relax. The Xian faction's skill was one level higher. This time, Lin Ling was finally going to lose. But even so, at this moment, no one dared to laugh at Lin Ling. Because, before Lin Ling went into seclusion, he was only ranked 30th. After 3 years of seclusion, he broke out in silence and rushed to the 20th place. It could be said that in the history of the heaven-surpassing list, Lin Ling's speed was the fastest. After all, for others to rush to the list, it was counted in hundreds of years. That may not be true. However, at this moment, a roar rang out. Behind the huge wheel of flames, the red-haired man revealed an evil smile. You think that was the power of the wheel of flames? You think too much. Now, the wheel of flames is exploding. The tyrannical voice continued to ring out. That aura was even more ferocious than the god of war. What? Previously, the force that repelled the Xian faction's god of war wasn't the power of the wheel of flames? How is this possible? Lin Ling must be talking nonsense. He is not talking nonsense. In the Battle of Four-Ring City, I heard that Lin Ling used the Wheel of Flames. This time, he used the Wheel of Flames to attack. This means that the power that suppressed the Xian faction was not the power of the Wheel of Flames, but Lin Ling's own power. What a terrifying power! He is only a level 2 true god. People continued to exclaim. They could not believe their eyes because this meant that the power of the Wheel of Flames did not explode. However, how could a level 2 true god be so powerful? They did not know that when Lin Ling used the Wheel of Flames to attack, it was the power of the realm-swallowing beast. So what? At this moment, the Xian faction's face was extremely ugly because he thought he had won. Nothing. I will let you see who is the god of war and who is the trash. Wheel of Flames. In the sky, the cold voice rang again, accompanied by the explosion of hot flames. Rumble! The new Wheel of Flames was obviously more ferocious than the one in Four-Ring City. The moment it exploded, It was as if the resplendent academy was about to be destroyed. At this moment, a large number of strong people rushed out from the depths of the academy and used their methods to isolate the power of the flames. This was because if strong people like them did not make a move, the people here would be in a terrible situation. How terrifying! People looked at the scene in front of them with pale faces and did not speak for a long time. Dean Chin and other strong people had appeared and were also staring at the scene in front of them. Over there, the flames formed a raging storm and continued to collide. Faintly, the roar of the god of war could be heard. Obviously, this was the final collision of power. Chapter 2695. Arrogance. Who won? It can't be Lin Ling, right? Impossible. You must know that Xian Pai defeated a 7th-stage true god. Some of the elders of Resplendent Academy admitted that they were not his match. Many people refused to accept the reality and thought that it was impossible for Lin Ling to reach the 18th place in an instant. Pah! But at this moment, footsteps were heard. A slender figure walked out from the rolling flames. It was as if he had been reborn from the flames. Who is that? Seeing this, the crowd became even more nervous. They kept shouting secretly. The one who walked out should be Xian Pai. Unfortunately, reality gave them a slap in the face. Because it was a blue and white robe. Lin Ling walked out from the battlefield. Moreover, his left hand was dragging a figure. That figure was like a dead dog. His entire body was covered in blood. It was obvious that he had lost the ability to fight. And that figure was Xian Pai. How big is the land of the 9 prefectures? You are arrogant just because you have 100 bloodlines. You call people trash every time you open your mouth. Is that all you see? Don't be a frog in a well. Also, you were once weak. At that time you were also trash. So, don't be complacent and look down on everything. Following Lin Ling's footsteps, his voice kept floating out. And Resplendent Academy became even more silent. War God. Finally, Lin Ling raised his left arm and looked at the person in his palm mockingly. Xian Pai spat out another mouthful of blood. Previously, he thought that Lin Ling was afraid of him, so he did not dare to speak. Who knew that it was because he did not step on the stairs? In the end, he stepped on the stairs. Lin Ling also gave him a warning. Now, the warning was fulfilled. He was defeated. Scram! Lin Ling roared again. With a wave of his arm, the strongest generation of Resplendent Academy was thrown away like trash. And the word war god he said before was undoubtedly full of ridicule. Who was trash? It was clear at a glance. Let's go. No one should dare to block the way now. After that, Lin Ling didn't even look at the Academy's higher-ups. He waved at Yu and the others and strode away. The previous clash was also a clash of strength, to see who was stronger. Unfortunately, Lin Ling had 2 dantians, and with the demonic flame change, the Xian faction had chosen to meet force with force. This could only be described as an egg smashing against a rock. Big Brother Ling. Milord. Yu and the rest ran over excitedly. They were so worried before this. Fortunately, as in the past, after Lin Ling came out of seclusion, his strength had indeed increased greatly. The Xian sect was no match for him at all. Of course, this was normal because Lin Ling's target was the Sovereign Marquis. What right did a mere first generation have to be arrogant? Watching Lin Ling proudly leave, the Resplendent Academy remained deathly silent. All the geniuses' faces were pale, and their eyes were more or less filled with worship. When Lin Ling left the academy, the Resplendent Academy didn't want to let him leave with too much glory, so they sent the geniuses to stop him. Unfortunately, what was the use? Everyone that came he would fight. With his strength, he would prove that he was the 18th strongest in the Heavenly Crossing list. In terms of monstrous talent, in terms of cultivation speed, who else but him? The most ironic thing was that such a genius was actually abandoned by the Resplendent Academy. Wasn't the dean of the Resplendent Academy too stupid? Good. At this moment, Dean Chin's face was gloomy, and she couldn't say anything. She could only say good 3 times in a row. Lin Ling left the academy with endless glory. At this moment, everyone would think that it wasn't her who abandoned Lin Ling, but Lin Ling really did leave the academy. The 2 concepts were completely different. In less than a year, this kid will definitely decline. After a cold snort, Dean Chin turned and left. She would wait and see. Seeing Dean Chin leave with shame, the crowd's mood became even more complicated. In less than a year, Lin Ling would definitely decline? Regarding this point, they held a doubtful attitude. Monstrous geniuses were monstrous geniuses because they could achieve something different from ordinary people. Without the nurturing of the resplendent academy, monstrous geniuses might not necessarily decline. Sigh. Vice Dean Gong and Ancestor Dragon Granny let out a long sigh. They didn't blame Lin Ling for this matter, but blamed Dean Chin. After all, Lin Ling had contributed a lot to the resplendent academy, but the academy had never helped him. This time, they wanted to convict Lin Ling. If it was anyone else, they would also be in a bad mood. In fact, if Dean Chin was lenient and was more polite to Lin Ling definitely wouldn't have left the academy. However, Dean Chin was a prideful person, and so was Lin Ling. When they clashed, it was natural that intense sparks would be ignited. Haha, awesome! On the way out of the academy, falling flowers, flowing water, and the others couldn't help but roar at the sky. Previously, the resplendent academy had said that the academy wasn't a place where one could come and go as they wished. However, Lord Lin Ling came and went as he wished. Who could stop him? When they thought of the shocked faces of the academy's geniuses and higher-ups, they felt proud. The resplendent academy thought that they were great, but in the end, all their geniuses couldn't stop Lin Ling. Now they have embarrassed themselves. I think it won't take long for this matter to spread throughout Qingzhou. At that time, the resplendent academy will be even more embarrassed. Yu Yu and Shen Yuangu also laughed. However, their words were indeed true. After tomorrow, rumors would definitely spread throughout Qingzhou. This was because Lin Ling was also the first genius in the history of the three great academies to leave the academy. He had set a precedent, and it would probably spread like wildfire 10,000 years later. Lin Ling, please wait. At this time, a bitter voice came from afar. Vice Principal Gong and Ancestor Dragon Granny had caught up and were looking at Lin Ling apologetically. Seeing this, Lin Ling felt warmth in his heart. Sigh, I didn't expect things to turn out like this. However, can you give me some face and return to the resplendent academy? Vice Principal Gong sincerely said, the resplendent academy nurtures geniuses. You have already created countless glory. If you leave just like this, it will be the academy's loss. Thank you, Senior Gong, for thinking so highly of me. Lin Ling had a good impression of Vice Principal Gong, but he stubbornly shook his head and said, however, I will treat people the same way as I treat them. The current principal looks down on me, but I, Lin Ling, am a person with dignity. Therefore, I will not go back humbly. I am truly sorry about this matter. This was a matter of dignity. Lin Ling would never compromise. Sigh. Vice Principal Gong sighed again. He also knew that Lin Ling was stubborn, so he didn't persuade him anymore. I believe that Vice Principal Chin will regret it soon. She isn't targeting you. She is just a little stubborn and opinionated. After all, she used to be Emperor Qing's bodyguard. She has followed Emperor Qing since she was young. She has long developed the habit of looking down on others. Vice Principal Gong said again. Lin Ling's eyes flickered. No wonder that woman was so arrogant. It turned out that her background was not small. Chapter 2696. Lack of money. A dean doesn't even dare to protect her own disciple. Hee hee. So what if she's Emperor Qing's guard? It'll be even more embarrassing if word gets out. However, Lin Ling didn't care about Dean Chin's background. Instead, he was somewhat disdainful of her. That's right. That old woman actually said that if we encounter something outside the academy, we have to solve it ourselves. Is this what a boss looks like? To put it bluntly, she's bullying the weak and fearing the strong. She doesn't dare to bully outsiders and only dares to attack her own people. The chess boy also said. At the same time, his eyes looked at Lin Ling. Lord Lin Ling is different. He dares to take responsibility for his actions. He has the courage of a superior. Hearing this, Yu Yu and the rest nodded. In terms of courage, Dean Chin couldn't compare to Lin Ling. Lin Ling was the master who openly protected his children. Whoever dared to bully them, Lin Ling would draw his sword and meet them. Vice Principal Gong also felt that compared to Lin Ling, Dean Qin was still a little narrow-minded. However, he asked again, Lin Ling, what do you plan to do next? Charge into the Heavenly Transcendence rankings. That guy called Grim Reaper should have been waiting for me for a long time. Lin Ling pondered. This. Vice Principal Gong and Ancestor Dragon Granny looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. Lin Ling had been in seclusion for 3 years. After coming out, he charged into the 18th place. Now, he wants to clear the rankings? If that's the case, then those strongest generation in the Heavenly Transcendence rankings would be too worthless. One had to know that those strongest generation had been sitting on the throne for thousands of years. Anyone who challenged them would return in failure. This showed how difficult it was to clear the rankings. Of course, this will take some time. However, I believe it won't take long. Lin Ling said again. After the battle with the Xian sect, he knew what level his strength was at. I have some divine crystals here. I hope they can help you. Vice Principal Gong pondered for a moment before taking out a brocade pouch that contained a large amount of divinity crystals. He knew that Lin Ling needed cultivation resources the most right now. However, Lin Ling did not accept it. He smiled and said, Thank you for your kind intentions, Vice President Gong. However, I, Lin Ling, am also a man. I don't beg others, only myself. If it were anyone else, Lin Ling might have accepted this favor. However, Vice School Head Gong was a member of the Resplendent Academy. Thus, to prevent rumors from spreading, Lin Ling directly rejected him. Otherwise, in the future, people would say that although Lin Ling had left the academy, he was still borrowing the cultivation resources of the Resplendent Academy. Lin Ling wasn't going to leave behind such a topic. If he wanted to prove himself, then he would do so in an open and honorable manner. This is my private stash. It has nothing to do with the Resplendent Academy. Sigh, you're really stubborn. Vice Principal Gong also understood Lin Ling's thoughts. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had to admit that Lin Ling was indeed a man of character. The few of them exchanged a few more words before Lin Ling also left. Looking at Lin Ling's back, Vice Principal Gong's expression turned solemn. If Lin Ling successfully clears the rankings, Qin Xueqi will be even more embarrassed. Yeah, I wonder if Vice Principal Qin will personally beg Lin Ling to return for the sake of the Resplendent Academy? Ancestor Dragon Granny suddenly felt a sense of anticipation. As for Lin Ling's group, they had already returned to the Rainforest City Market. My third Dantian is still lacking. If it's born, my strength will double. It's a pity that it requires too many divinity crystals. Lin Ling shook his head helplessly as he looked at the crowded market. The market's business was not bad, but it was still far from what Lin Ling needed. Li Xiaoyao left behind a large amount of divinity crystals in the Fortune Travel Manor. If I can obtain those divinity crystals, it'll be enough for me to break through. However, those divinity crystals won't be easy to obtain. The experts in the Heavenly Court will definitely pay attention to those divinity crystals. If I'm not careful, my identity might be exposed. Lin Ling thought. The Heavenly Court was very familiar with Li Xiaoyao. Naturally, they were also eyeing those divinity crystals covetously. If Lin Ling went to take them, he would definitely be suspected by the Heavenly Court. With Lin Ling's current strength, he still couldn't go against the entire Heavenly Court. Therefore, this matter could only be pushed back. Sir, this is my master. Yes. At this moment, Falling Flower, Flowing Water, and a few others walked over with several figures. These people were slightly older, but their strength was unfathomable. Your master? Yes. Lin Ling looked over and immediately knew that these people were the top 10 sword immortals of Qing province. Apart from them, there was also the master of the chess boy, the chess ancestor. Lin Ling, are you short of money now? I have some here. Yes. Then, a few more people walked into the market. The person in the lead was Tang Yue. Obviously, they had all received the news that Lin Ling had withdrawn from the academy. Most people thought that Lin Ling's withdrawal meant that it would be difficult for him to rise again. Only Falling Flower, Flowing Water, and a few others still believed in Lin Ling. Therefore, they hurriedly asked the elders behind them to ask for a favor. I promise you on behalf of Square Commandery. How many divinity crystals do you want? Tang Yue patted her chest and said. After not seeing her for a while, this girl had become more ambitious. It seemed that no one else could be the successor of Square Commandery other than her. If I say that I want the whole Square Commandery, Will you give it to me? Lin Ling's heart warmed, and then he joked. This sentence stunned Tang Yue. Sir Lin Ling was so arrogant. However, when she thought of Lin Ling extorting money from Tating Commandery, she immediately nodded and said, "You are my sir, no problem." Yes. This girl seemed to be straightforward, but in fact, she was very cunning. Obviously, she knew that Lin Ling was not such a greedy person. What she said before must be a joke. Moreover, she was also betting on Lin Ling's future. You have been with me for a long time, but you have learned a lot in business. You have never done a bad deal. Yes. However, how could Lin Ling not know what Tang Yue was thinking? He immediately laughed and scolded her. Tang Yue stuck out her tongue cutely. No matter how dignified she was in Square Commandery, in front of Lin Ling, she was a naughty little princess. Moreover, she was under the shadow of Lin Ling. Lin Ling, if there's anything you need help with, just say it. These disciples of mine have grown a lot under your guidance and often speak well of you in front of me. If I don't help you, I'm afraid that these fellows will leave the sect. The master of the Falling Flowers and Water Sword looked at Lin Ling and smiled. His name was Qing Mo, and his swordsmanship was also famous in Qingzhou. Of course, the most important thing was that the Falling Flowers and Water Sword valued Lin Ling too much and insisted on his help. Otherwise, he would cry, make a fuss, and threaten to hang himself. He was also at a loss for what to do. The old man next to him also said so. If he did not help, the chess boy would not even recognize him as his master. Thank you, senior. However, you can take it as my self-esteem causing trouble. I, Lin Ling, can solve it by myself. Thank you. Lin Ling looked at these seniors gratefully. These seniors were very powerful, but they took the initiative to help him. This was also a favor. After all, although Lin Ling had infinite potential, that was a matter of the future. Who knew what would happen in the future? Moreover, being close to Lin Ling also meant that they had offended many powerful forces. Hearing this, the masters all sighed and shook their heads, but they also secretly admired him. Now, Lin Ling had become a hot topic. Everyone in Qingzhou knew about him, and a large number of people were waiting to see him fail. If it was an ordinary person, he would have asked others to help him improve his strength as soon as possible. Chapter 2697. Ancient Stone Auction. By the way, seniors, is there an auction in Qingzhou? Suddenly, Lin Ling thought of something and hurriedly asked. Previously, in order to form the third dantian, he had refined all the treasures on him. But there was one thing that was missing, and that was the realm-swallowing beast's corpse terror. Because the corpse horrors could only improve the strength of the fleshly body, and it wasn't of much help to the birth of the dantian. Right now, Lin Ling still had 3 pieces left. Although it wasn't much, it should be worth a lot of money if they were to be sold. There are auctions all the time. She glanced at the market and said, I see that your market is doing well, so you shouldn't be short of money. If you want to find big money, you can only go to the 4th ring city. The transactions there are bigger. By the way, what do you want to auction? Realm-swallowing beast corpse horror. Lin Ling looked at Senior Qing Mo and said. His words made the other seniors gasp. The world-swallowing beast was the most difficult to kill. Even if it was killed, it would be reborn somewhere else. That was why this kind of corpse horror was so valuable. This also meant that Lin Ling had the qualifications to enter Sihuan City's auction. After that, the few of them exchanged a few words and immediately set off. Qing Mo and the other masters felt that they weren't able to help Lin Ling, so they volunteered to go with him and protect Lin Ling along the way. And for this trip, Lin Ling also brought along Yu Yu because the scabbard that Big Brother Sakura had left for him just happened to be for Yu Yu to use. And now that Lin Ling was the Grand Marshal, he already had the qualifications to enter 4-ring city. Master, take me with you. Falling Flowers, Flowing Water, and the others weren't qualified to enter the 4-ring city. At this moment, they were looking at their master with eager eyes. You guys just love to join in the fun. Didn't you say that martial artists should be more knowledgeable? It's time for us to see the wider world of martial artists. Master, I know you must have a way. Take me to the 4-ring city. Stinking brat, when you need master's help, you're so sweet. When you don't need master's help, you won't even see him for half a year. Qing Mo and the other experts laughed and scolded. However, They did have a way to bring falling flowers, flowing water sword and the others in. This was the second time Lin Ling had entered Four Ring City. He still remembered the great battle that had taken place there. If he did not remember wrongly, the biggest force in Four Ring City was the Four Symbols Divine Palace. Of course, the hidden forces were not to be underestimated either. When I killed Lei Tianlan, Shen Linglong also helped me once. I don't know if we'll have a chance to meet again. And Meng Lu, I also owe him a favor. Lin Ling mumbled to himself. When he came to Sihuan City, he had also put on his mask. There were too many people here, so there was no need for trouble. It was better to save as much as possible. As for the auction, it was held in the city and was called the Ancient Stone Auction. When Lin Ling and the others arrived, the people around them exclaimed in surprise, especially Yu Yu. It was her first time here. This was because the Ancient Stone Auction was very large. It was tall and majestic, and one could not see the end of it. It was like a deep pit. The pit was surrounded by chairs, and in the middle of the pit was a platform used to display treasures. It was not time for the auction yet, but there were already many people sitting around. All of them had monstrous strength. World King Realm powerhouses were extremely rare, and most of them were true God Realm powerhouses. Moreover, these powerhouses all had different auras. In the distance there were many 5-meter-tall giants sitting there. They were also here to auction their treasures. Those are the giants of the eastern border. Sensing Yu Yu's surprise, Qing Mo explained with a smile, causing Yu Yu's pupils to narrow again. That's nothing. The true giants are several hundred meters tall. Lin Ling was very knowledgeable, so his reaction was very calm. The chaos of the universe is indeed much bigger than I imagined. Yu Yu could not help but sigh. Okay, let's go and sell our treasures first. Lin Ling led Yu Yu forwards. As for Qing Mo and the other seniors, they remained in the Ancient Stone Auction. The treasures for sale were in a great hall beside the Ancient Stone Auction. Martial artists entered and exited one after another. Of course, there were some martial artists that had looks of regret on their faces. It was clear that the treasures they had put up for sale were too low in value and could only appear in Three Ring City. They didn't have the qualifications to enter Four Ring City. Are you two here to buy something? Or to sell something? After Lin Ling and Yu Yu entered, an old man immediately walked over with a smile. Of course, although he seemed polite, there was a trace of disdain in his eyes. He could see that these two people were very young. Although their strength was good, such young characters couldn't take out anything good. Treasures for sale. Lin Ling glanced at the old man and faintly smiled. Haha, then please follow me, little friends. The old man smiled politely and led the way. However, he felt even more depressed. It was not easy to wait for two guests, but in the end, they were two paupers. One had to know that these people specialized in receiving martial artists who put up treasures for sale. They could also get a cut of the divine crystals obtained from the auction treasures. If the guests' treasures were too poor, then they would have lived in vain. However, the rules of the Ancient Stone Auction were that they had to receive guests. Therefore, even if they had no choice, they still had to politely receive Lin Ling and Yu Yu. The three of them came to a luxurious room. There was a burning jade sandalwood incense, and the billowing green smoke could calm a martial artist's mind. Jade sandalwood incense, this is even more valuable than red sandalwood incense. Even Lin Ling was secretly surprised. This ancient stone auction was indeed rich and imposing. When the old man saw his surprised expression, it made him even more disdainful. These two bumpkins. What treasures do you want to put up for sale? Even so, the old man still smiled politely and poured tea for Lin Ling and Yu Yu. Hearing this, Lin Ling decisively took out the realm-devouring beast's corpse. The quaint rock directly smashed the table into smithereens. The old man's pupils constricted. What kind of trash was this? He was so angry that he did not even bother to pour the tea. That was because the realm-devouring beast's corpse had been there for many years and had already turned into stone. Otherwise, the Grand Court Commandery would not have used it as a city wall. This made the old man think that it was just a piece of broken stone. If not for the old man's good manners, he would have already scolded them. Not to mention pouring tea, he would have used a broom to chase the two away. What is this? The old man's tone was obviously not good. Take a look for yourself. Lin Ling also noticed the change in the old man's attitude, but he did not care much and was still as calm as before. Hearing that, the old man slightly frowned. He formed a spirit formation with both of his hands and enveloped the stone. It was a spirit formation technique used to search for treasures. Lin Ling lightly nodded his head. This ancient stone auction was even bigger than he imagined. A mere old man who was supposed to be a guest already knew some spirit formation techniques. As the old man continued to check, his expression changed drastically. Because he could not see through this rock. Could this be the flesh of a demonic beast? He raised his head and exclaimed. At that moment, he did not dare to be careless. He was only surprised. That's right. Give me a price. Lin Ling immediately nodded and said. Hearing that, the old man's forehead was full of sweat. He could see that this was the flesh of a demonic beast, but he could not understand what kind of demonic beast it was. Wait for me. The old man quickly left the room. Of course, just as he walked out of the door, he immediately ran back and personally poured a cup of tea for Lin Ling and Yu before leaving. Chapter 2698. The auction began. Not long after, a middle-aged man walked in. After bowing to Lin Ling, he quickly checked the rock. After a long time, he could not find out the origin of the rock. Instantly, the two of them looked at Lin Ling with wry smiles and said, Sir, please tell us what treasure this is. Yes. The realm-swallowing beast's corpse. Yes. Lin Ling took a sip of tea and said lightly. The middle-aged man was also drinking tea. After hearing this, the teacup in his hand was crushed by his grip. The tea spilled on his hand, but he did not seem to notice. This was obviously a precious treasure. Old Wu, quick! Go get the 10,000 years rain-tip tea and treat our guests well. The middle-aged man shouted anxiously. The old man next to him was dumbfounded. Was this still a bumpkin? Scared witless, he rushed out of the room. Moreover, his speed was very fast, deeply afraid that he would neglect the two little ancestors. Dear guests, where did this realm-swallowing beast's corpse come from? After the old man left, the middle-aged man looked respectfully at Lin Ling and asked, Do you have to ask about the origin of a treasure? Lin Ling's expression did not change as he asked lightly. Hearing this, the middle-aged man's expression changed slightly. He quickly explained, Dear guests, please do not think too much. We ask about the origin because we want to raise the price. Of course, if it is inconvenient for you, you don't have to ask. This was the rule of the auction. Usually, the rarer the treasure, the more the price would double. Lin Ling, of course, would not say that this corpse was extorted from Tating Commandery. How about this? This corpse's starting price is 30 million divine gems. What do you think? After that, the middle-aged man said again and looked forward to Lin Ling's answer. 30 million divine gems. And this was only a small piece of corpse. If all of the corpse was taken out to sell, the price would be astronomical. So, Lin Ling's heart jerked slightly as well. However, his expression didn't change at all. This caused the middle-aged man's heart to constrict, and he knew that these two young men weren't simple at all. Because an ordinary person would be filled with fear and trepidation as soon as 30 million divine crystals were offered. After all, it was only the starting price. This meant that these two people were not simple. All right, that's the price. At this moment, Lin Ling finally nodded. It wasn't that he wasn't surprised, it was just that he was very knowledgeable, and he was already familiar with the rules of the auction. This is the Fu Hang Estate's money card. All the auction proceeds will be recorded in it. Furthermore, if you use this card to purchase anything at the auction, you will get a 10% discount. The middle-aged man handed over another item. This was the money card of Fu Hang Manor. With this card, one would be able to withdraw divine crystals from any branch. Furthermore, only the person who received the card would be able to do so. It was a must-have item for martial artists when they went out for training. Lin Ling nodded and took the money card familiarly. After checking it for a moment, he dripped his blood on it and claimed it as his master. Moreover, he said with a smile, it's only a green card. Looks like the ancient stone auction doesn't have much authority. As far as he knew, there were white cards, black cards, cyan cards, yellow cards, red cards, and even the legendary purple cards. The purple card was of the highest grade and could even borrow money from Fu Xing Manor. Hearing this, the middle-aged man's heart thumped. these two are still novices? He was simply a veteran of the Jianghu. All right, I also know that the more valuable cards are hard to come by. Your auction doesn't have the authority to do so, so that's it. Lin Ling stood up, held Yu Yu's hand, and left. In the past, Li Xiaoyao already had a purple card. Unfortunately, that money could only be seen but could not be used. At the entrance, the old man ran over with a teapot in his hand. He wanted to make tea for Lin Ling and Yu Yu. However, when he saw that Lin Ling had left, he immediately bowed and saluted. Lin Ling waved his hand and left as well. Thank goodness, thank goodness. I almost neglected these two esteemed guests. The old man said nervously. Not only are they esteemed guests, but they are also people you can't afford to offend. You're lucky that you didn't do anything wrong. The middle-aged man said indifferently. Then he smiled and said, however, this transaction is enough for you to work hard for a year. Your luck is really good. Yes, yes. The old man suddenly laughed. If Lin Ling was still there, he was afraid that he would kowtow to Lin Ling and call him little ancestor. Outside, there were more and more people. The time for the new ranking of the Heavenly Transcendence rankings is coming. I wonder if there will be any changes to the rankings. It's hard to say. Although many of the strongest generation have been defeated by others, only the battles recognized by the Divine Dynasty will change the rankings. That's right. So, during the ranking, the people of the younger generation will have to work harder. Look, that's God R.A., the 41st on the ranking. He was defeated not long ago. Now, he must have come to the auction to buy treasures to improve his strength. The voices of discussion rose and fell one after another. Many people of the younger generation walked into the ancient stone auction with high morale. They established their name and established their shadow. Being famous in Qingzhou was the dream of every martial artist. Especially during the ranking, because no matter which generation you defeated, without the recognition of the Divine Dynasty, those battle positions would not be recognized. After all, you may be able to defeat the strongest generation, but what if the opponent was seriously injured or in a state of continuous battle? So, that kind of defeat did not mean anything. I should be ranked 18th now, but I have not received the recognition of the Divine Dynasty, so it does not count. Hearing the voices around him, Lin Ling muttered to himself and entered the auction with Yu Yu. In the vast auction, the clamor was like the waves of the sea. Experts from all over had gathered, and there were hidden dragons and crouching tigers. This made Lin Ling secretly surprised. This ancient stone auction was very valuable. It had actually attracted so many strong cultivators. Lin Ling even saw Xian Linglong, Meng Lu, and other geniuses of the younger generation. Apart from these experts, Lin Ling did not know most of the people, but they were not to be underestimated. Thank you for your kindness. Today, the 35 millionth ancient stone auction will begin again. At this moment, a woman in revealing clothes walked out from the stone platform of the auction house. She was tall and slender, with curves in all the right places. Her figure was perfect, and there was a white tail behind her that moved along with her steps. It was extremely alluring. The moment she walked out, the auction fell silent. Many people's eyes were burning with passion. Even the 5-meter-tall giants were licking their lips at this moment. Because that was the auction host, Lady Mei Xueqi. According to legend, this magical woman had the divine tree tripod body, and those who had sex with her would greatly increase their strength, which was better than cultivating with divine crystals. That was why everyone was looking at her with passion. In many people's eyes, Lady Mei Xueqi was not only a beauty, but also an elixir that could make people stronger. What an amazing talent! At this moment, Lin Ling used the 10,000 elephant demonic eyes and was slightly surprised. In the chaotic universe there were all kinds of strange things. To have such a talent, many men would be tempted. Yu Yu, on the other hand, was extremely curious and asked Lin Ling to explain. There are so many talents in the chaotic universe. That woman doesn't seem to need to cultivate. She does that every day, and her strength will greatly increase. The same goes for the men with her. Chapter 2699. White Tiger Mansion. Lin Ling kept explaining. The 100 great bloodlines were left behind by Huan Yu's first batch of martial artists. The purest bloodline was also known as the royal bloodline, but this bloodline was very rare. On the contrary, there were quite a few collateral bloodlines. Lady Mei Xueqi, I've come to this auction 30 million times. When will you be auctioned? Someone suddenly shouted, causing the crowd to clamor as well. The enchanting woman suddenly smiled and said, when the time comes, the ancient stone auction will be over and I will be the treasure. This auction had been held more than 30 million times, which meant that the woman would only auction herself on the last auction. This was obviously a joke. However, it made the atmosphere of the auction even more lively. All right, let the auction begin. The first treasure, the blood of the goddess. At this moment, with a wave of her jade-like hand, light blossomed in the sky, and an illusion appeared. It was a lovely woman. She was dressed in white and had rabbit ears on her head. At this moment, she was looking at everyone pitifully. These are people from the Eastern Territory's divine rabbit race. I don't think I need to say more about how precious their virgin blood is. That beautiful tree said with a smile. Sure enough, the auction was in an uproar. The blood of the goddess was extremely rare. Not only could it assist in cultivation, it was said that if one wanted to break through to the true god realm, the blood of the goddess could increase the success rate by 10%. To a peak true god realm expert, 10% was already a very high success rate. The so-called blood of the goddess was, in fact, the blood of a virgin. The starting price is 10 million deity crystals. 20 million. 25 million. Bids rang out one after another. Meanwhile, Lin Ling shook his head helplessly as he looked at the illusion in the sky. He knew that the young lady from the Divine Rabbit clan had clearly been caught, moreover having her blood released every year in exchange. No wonder that young lady was so pitiful. In the boundless universe, strength was everything. Without strength, one's life would be dominated by others. This reminded Lin Ling of Queen Qianji. Was her race the same? Just as he was thinking, the goddess blood was finally obtained by an old man. Even though this treasure was precious, it was only useful to those at the peak of the true divinity realm. Thus, the final auction price was 50 million deity crystals. Next, one treasure after another appeared. Lin Ling's eyes flickered continuously. Those treasures were very useful to him, but unfortunately, he had no money at the moment. Next treasure. At this moment, an ancient rock appeared in front of everyone's eyes. At this moment, everyone was puzzled. What kind of trash is this? Lady Mai Xueqi, you're not teasing us, are you? Such crappy stones are everywhere on the street. Lady Mei Xueqi must be toying with us. I don't want this treasure anymore. Let the next one come up. Voices of dissatisfaction immediately sounded. However, Mieshu was extremely calm. She smiled faintly and waited until everyone's dissatisfaction reached its peak before she slowly opened her mouth. It had to be said that this woman's method of livening up the atmosphere was indeed impressive. This is the realm-devouring beast's corpse horror. When her voice rang out, the entire auction house fell silent. World-swallowing beast? Then, countless gasps could be heard. The realm-swallowing beast was the most mysterious thing in the universe. No one knew how it was born, and no one knew where it usually appeared. However, many people knew that the realm-swallowing beast was immortal and indestructible. But now, there was a realm-swallowing beast's corpse horror? This must be fake. Someone muttered to himself. My ancient stone auction has been held more than 30 million times. When has there ever been a fake? Lady Mei Xueqi laughed. Hearing this, everyone's hearts suddenly beat violently. Such a treasure was hard to come by. The starting price is 30 million deity crystals. 40 million. 50 million. The deafening voices seemed to be about to open the auction house. Seeing this, Lin Ling could not help but laugh excitedly. Yu, who was beside him, looked at the skyrocketing price, and the corner of her mouth also revealed a smile that could topple a city. I'm rich. I'm completely rich. It's just a piece of corpse horror. If I take out the corpse horror that is as big as the city wall and sell it, I wonder how much money I can make. Lin Ling licked his lips and shook his head. The realm-swallowing beast's corpse horror was hard to come by. It was best to use it to improve one's physical strength. If he auctioned it off, it would be letting others take advantage of it. Lin Ling was not that stupid. Anyway, he still had 2 pieces. If he ran out of money, he could auction it off. As time passed, the price gradually reached 100 million. The realm-swallowing beast's corpse horror, this. At this moment, in a corner of the auction house, several men's expressions changed drastically. Great senior brother. Is this the realm-swallowing beast's corpse horror of our Grand Court Commandery? One of them said. The blonde youth beside him looked very gloomy. He was Sunbone of Grand Court Commandery. In the entire Qingzhou, the realm-swallowing beast's corpse horror has never appeared before. This time, it has appeared. I think it must be the city wall of our Grand Court Commandery. The auctioneer must be Lin Ling. Sunbone finally said. He was boiling with anger. This was such a precious item that even he had not used it before. In the end, Lin Ling had taken advantage of it. Damn Lin Ling. I really want to tear him into pieces. However, Lin Ling and Grand Court Commandery have reached an agreement. They will not interfere with each other's business. If we touch him again, I don't know what crazy things Lin Ling will do. What are you afraid of? Lin Ling has been abandoned by the Radiant Academy. The sun has set. What is there to be afraid of? That's right. Lin Ling was able to mobilize the 6 military camps because of his talent. Without the Radiant Academy, his strength is only a so. Hence, the great Qing divine dynasty will not value him anymore. His Majesty has secretly issued the Grand Court order. When Lin Ling is weak, we will give him a fatal blow. The martial artists of Grand Court Commandery spoke one after another. They remembered the humiliation of the past. Sunbone also secretly clenched his fists, waiting for the moment when Lin Ling was completely defeated. Everyone, how about giving me some face? The realm-swallowing beast's corpse horror is ours. At this moment, an old voice suddenly rang out, causing the auction to suddenly fall silent. The White Tiger Divine Mansion, one of the 4 symbols divine mansions, was the lord of 4 Ring City. The mansion master was a prince of the great Qing divine dynasty. Ordinary people could not afford to offend him. All right, I will give you some face. Since the White Tiger Divine Mansion has taken a fancy to it, we will not fight for it. Many people nodded and said, Thank you, everyone. An old man stood up and bowed to the crowd. However, although he seemed to be bowing, his words were mixed with a domineering aura. It seemed that even if the crowd did not give him face, he was not afraid. Wherever his gaze passed, people would subconsciously lower their heads. Even the 5-meter-tall giant did so. This was because the old man's gaze was like a divine tiger, wild and unruly. Then, the old man sat back down with a smile on his face. Chapter 2700. Despicable. Fortunately, someone from the Great Azure Divine Dynasty had stepped in to help Tating Commandery. Otherwise, the White Tiger Divine Residence would have eradicated Tating Commandery. Now that they saw the corpse horror again, the White Tiger Divine Residence could guess that it was Lin Ling who had put it up for auction. I heard that Lin Ling brought the 6 tribes barracks to blackmail Tating Commandery and got the corpse horror of the realm-devouring beast. That means that Lin Ling is most likely in this auction. This Lin Ling is really not simple. He just blackmailed 2 commanderies and then he left the academy. Now, many people are secretly watching him. That guy will not decline. Let's just wait and see. On the other side, Xian Linglong and Meng Lu also said to themselves. However, the auction was very big and they were not sure if Lin Ling was here. Similarly, many experts' eyes flickered. Ordinary people did not know what benefits Lin Ling had obtained in Tating Commandery, but these people knew a thing or two. Generally speaking, Lin Ling was a person who did not seem strong, but he had repeatedly caused a great commotion in Qingzhou. However, the following treasures caused the auction to fall silent. It was a piece of dead wood. The wood was very ordinary and even a little rotten. Lord Mei Shuzi, what treasure is this? However, this time, Mr. Mei Shuzi smiled bitterly and said, This is a piece of divine wood. The person who put it up for sale has a great background. He is from the Eastern Royal Clan of the Eastern Territory. I'm sure everyone has heard of this ancient imperial clan. However, this imperial clan has encountered a great calamity, so someone took out this item to auction. He doesn't know what this treasure is, but he does know that when the Eastern Royal Clan was still alive, he valued this treasure very much. Therefore, with the name East Royal Family, this treasure should be extraordinary. The East royal family was very famous in the East Territory and was also the oldest existence in Huanyu. There were even rumors that the previous owner of Crimson Prefecture in the Land of Nine Prefectures was the East royal family. However, the East royal family was defeated and fled the East Territory. Only then did Crimson Prefecture change its owner. Of course, whether this was the truth or not, no one could be sure. It could only be said that Dong Huang was indeed a royal family whose name shook the myriad of worlds. The broken stone from before has a name, but this broken piece of wood doesn't even have a name. Although it's from the Dong Huang clan, it doesn't mean that they specialize in producing precious treasures. Maybe it's just a piece of broken wood. Someone shook his head and said, none of them were fools. They wouldn't waste money on useless things. This time, Lady Xueqi shook her head helplessly. Then you can bid as you wish. However, the auction was still silent. No one was interested. It was the same for Lin Ling. However, when he used his 10,000 mammoths magic eyes, his expression changed drastically. It was because he saw a layer of mysterious rotten wood that isolated everything outside the broken piece of wood, but the heart of the wood was a type of black liquid. Ancient gazing divine water. Lin Ling muttered to himself. This kind of treasure was extremely rare. It was born in the primal chaos of the universe. Not only could it be used to refine weapons, but it could also improve a martial artist's ultimate martial Dao. Moreover, it could improve all of the martial arts. Gazing at the ancient divine water, gazing at the past, in order to comprehend the martial Dao. At the side, Yu was too familiar with Lin Ling, so she immediately sensed Lin Ling's emotions. Big brother Ling, is that thing extraordinary? And that's a great treasure. We definitely can't miss it. Lin Ling said without batting an eyelid. He did not bid. Time passed quietly, and Lady Xueqi seemed to have run out of patience. She finally raised her hand and prepared for the next treasure. 5 million deity crystals. But at this moment, a calm voice rang out. It was Lin Ling's voice. Everyone was stunned for a moment, but they didn't see who was bidding. They only knew that there was an idiot buying a piece of broken wood. Have you become stupid because you have too much money? Haha, not everyone is very smart. If there are no idiots, how can we show off our intelligence? Everyone laughed sarcastically. However, the louder the laughter, the more excited Lin Ling became. Everyone thought he was an idiot, which was even better. He wouldn't have to spend much money to buy that treasure. Lady Xueqi was stunned for a moment. Then, when she saw that no one was bidding, she was about to confirm, 10 million deity crystals. However, at this moment, a lazy voice rang out. 10 million, the peak of the idiots. Who is this guy? Many people were shocked, and their eyes began to look around. There's no need to look. I'm the idiot in your eyes. However, someone immediately spoke. On a chair in the east, a young man was eating grapes and lazily lying on his chair. Beside him, there were a few beauties that could topple empires. At this moment, some of them were gifting wine and some were gifting grapes, allowing this young man to live the life of an emperor. His exaggerated appearance undoubtedly made the faces of many experts turn cold. That young man dared to be so arrogant in front of them? Wait, he seems to be the son of the Azure Dragon Divine Mansion. However, at this moment, someone exclaimed. The Azure Dragon Divine Mansion was one of the 4 great divine mansions. It was also a giant existence in the Four-Ring City. At this moment, no one dared to be dissatisfied. They could only watch the young man eat grapes and drink wine arrogantly. Moreover, they sensed that the young man was doing it on purpose. He was obviously looking down on the experts. As for Lin Ling, his face turned ugly. He knew that the young man wasn't targeting him. He was just trying to please the crowd. However, this had ruined his plan. 11 million deity crystals. At this point, Lin Ling could only bid again. Who was it? So it's a fellow who hides in a corner and can't show his face. However, I like to do things that are different from others, so 15 million divine crystals. The young man glanced at Lin Ling and said disdainfully. He really wasn't targeting Lin Ling. He didn't even know Lin Ling. It was just that he wanted to impress the crowd and amaze everyone with a single brilliant feat. The Azure Dragon Divine Mansion had accepted a piece of wood that others didn't want. Rich people could do whatever they wanted. This guy is so despicable. Yu stared at the young man and couldn't help but curse. Beside her, falling flowers, flowing water, and the others also had ugly expressions. Wasn't this just looking for trouble? Beauty, do you want to drink wine? Come to my place. What's the point of following that piece of trash? The young man's eyes lit up when he saw Yu. He smiled and said. His attitude was as arrogant as it could be. However, the crowd was helpless. They could only accept their bad luck when they met someone from the Azure Dragon Divine Mansion. 16 million deity crystals. Lin Ling's voice was even colder than before. Hee. 17 million deity crystals. Hee. However, the young man was indeed despicable. He didn't raise the price too high, just slightly higher than Lin Ling's. 19 million deity crystals. Hee. Lin Ling said again. Immediately, a commotion broke out in the auction hall. The masked man was actually going against the young man from the Azure Dragon Divine Mansion. That guy was really tough. Oh, the price is getting higher and higher. Interesting, very interesting. 30 million deity crystals. The young man took a sip of wine and said lazily. Then he stretched out his right hand and made an inviting gesture to Lin Ling. Chapter 2701. An Invitation. Upon seeing this, Lin Ling's expression became even more gloomy. The price had reached 30 million, and he couldn't make any more bids. This was because there was no end to this, and he had to leave behind divine crystals to purchase cultivation materials. This sire is worthy of being called rich and overbearing. Fine, you win. I don't want this broken wood anymore. Lin Ling finally compromised, but his eyes were filled with killing intent. You don't want to fight anymore? The young man stopped drinking and was somewhat stunned. It was as if he had punched cotton. Because he was only trying to please the crowd and play tricks on others. Who would have imagined that Lin Ling would suddenly withdraw? Lin Ling had done it so decisively that he'd wasted 30 million divine crystals. After all, that piece of wood was probably only worth 1 million deity crystals. Of course, since things had come to this, he could only force himself to accept it. In any case, the Azure Dragon Manor was rich. Trash, you dare to fight with me, Xueqi? Go home and hold your child. The young man laughed sarcastically and continued drinking. Hearing this, Lin Ling remained silent, but the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. Damn it! Yu frowned as she watched the treasure being taken by someone else. If that young man knew the value of the wood, it would make sense for him to compete with Lin Ling. However, the other party didn't know the value of the wood at all. He was clearly trying to crush Lin Ling. It doesn't matter. I'll let him be arrogant for now. That ancient gazing divine water will still be mine. Lin Ling said to Yu, but his voice was very cold, with a touch of the aura of a must-win. Yu was stunned when she heard that. She suddenly understood Lin Ling's intention. Following that, treasures appeared one after another. Lin Ling hurriedly searched for what he needed. Stone Eye Flame, it can increase my fire element talent and comprehension. I have to buy this. Frost Mirror Light Chasing Water, the most suitable cultivation treasure for early True God realm, very suitable for my current realm. I must get the 3 flowers and 16 fruits as well. As the treasures came out one after another, Lin Ling also joined the competition and bought quite a number of cultivation items. However, some unpopular treasures were the most economical, because many people did not know the use of those treasures, and this was more suitable for Lin Ling. He bid decisively. However, just when he thought that no one would bid, the young man from the Azure Dragon Manor followed closely behind Lin Ling. Previously, Lin Ling had made him blow a loss, so that youth was obviously going to waste his time with Lin Ling. This made Lin Ling fly into a rage. Was that guy crazy? Hee, that's how willful the rich can be. The young man seemed to know that Lin Ling was furious, so he shrugged nonchalantly. Many people secretly sympathized with Lin Ling. He could have offended anyone, but he had to offend young Master Xueqi. Wasn't he courting death? This Lord Qingmu is using the Azure Dragon Divine Residence as his backing to do some outrageous things. How despicable. At the corner of the auction house, Shen Linglong said disdainfully. As they were both bloodlines of the 4 divine palaces, she naturally knew him. However, the latter was lazy in learning martial arts, but he was extremely exaggerated, which was extremely ironic. That guy is really unlucky. Then, Xian Linglong looked at Lin Ling in the distance and said, "That's not necessarily true." However, an indifferent voice came from beside her, which made Xian Linglong's pupils dilate. She then turned to look at Meng Lu, not understanding why he said that. Hee, that guy is not someone who can be trampled on. When his anger reaches the peak, he dares to do anything. Meng revealed a mysterious smile. "Who is he? Do you know him?" Xian Linglong obviously did not recognize Lin Ling. "Of course I know him, but that's not important. What's important is that the ranking of the Heavenly Transcendence rankings is about to begin. I don't know if that guy will participate." Meng revealed an expectant look. Lin Ling, fall or rise, it all depended on this moment. On the other hand, Xian Linglong was silent. No one knew if she had guessed Lin Ling's identity or not. "Young master, I admit defeat. I can't play with you." In the auction, Lin Ling's voice finally rang out. He did not need to go against his own divine gems. Anyway, he had bought a large amount of cultivation resources. It would be good if he could get some rare treasures, but if he did not, it would not affect him much. "Hee, you know how to lower your head? Let me tell you, I, Lord Qingmu, have never failed to get anything that I, Lord Qingmu, want. This time, I will teach you a lesson. If you see me in the future, take a detour and I will spare your life." Lord Qingmu laughed disdainfully. He liked the way Lin Ling lowered his head and admitted his mistake. That was the kind of domineering attitude he wanted. Awesome. Anyone who oppresses his opponent like Lord Qingmu would be afraid of being oppressed to the point of doubting themselves. Who asked him to be so rich and overbearing? We can't afford to offend him. That masked man is really unlucky. Moreover, he lowered his head and admitted his mistake quickly. Otherwise, if he continued to be arrogant, he would have turned into a pile of bones after leaving the auction. Many people were discussing and sympathizing with Lin Ling. However, no one knew that in Lin Ling's heart, there was no one called Lord Qingmu in this world. Even if he was still alive and still existed, Lin Ling wanted him to disappear. Provoking Lin Ling for no reason once, he could endure it. Provoking Lin Ling twice, he did not care. But 3 times he could only die. As time passed, the auction came to an end. Lin Ling put on his cloak and quietly left with Yu Yu. There were many people here, and he did not want to cause any trouble. However, after he left the ancient stone auction, the middle-aged man and the old man who had received Lin Ling at the beginning also appeared. They cupped their hands and bowed to Lin Ling. "Sir, the White Tiger Divine Residence requests an audience." That made Lin Ling frown. He pondered for a moment and suddenly thought of something. He frowned and said, "Did your auction expose the identity of the customer?" The White Tiger Divine Office was the one who bought the realm-swallowing beast's corpse terror. They wanted to get more corpse terror, so they went to the auction to find Lin Ling. "Sir, please spare our lives." The 2 people quickly knelt down and said with pale faces, "That's the White Tiger Divine Office. We can't afford to offend them. If he knows the customer who can sign the realm-swallowing beast's corpse terror, we can only obediently tell him." After they finished speaking, they kowtowed to the ground. Seeing this, Lin Ling sighed. He knew that they had no choice. He nodded and said, "Lead the way." "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." The 2 stood up in fear and treated Lin Ling as if he was their ancestor. They kept apologizing and admitting their mistakes. Because if Lin Ling wanted to kill them, the ancient stone auction would have to sacrifice them. Fortunately, Lin Ling was a reasonable person. Lin Ling bid farewell to Luo Hua, Flowing Water, and the others and then went on ahead. The few of them quickly arrived at a restaurant. The restaurant had been cleared out, and only a few people were drinking. The moment Lin Ling stepped into the restaurant, one of the old men looked over. It was the old man who bought the realm-swallowing beast's corpse terror. "Sir, you have an extraordinary temperament." Seeing Lin Ling, the old man stood up and said, "Sir, please speak your mind." Chapter 2702. It was a dark and windy night. A night to kill. That fearless look immediately angered the experts beside the old man. These experts were all at the peak of the true god realm. They could shake the entire 3-ring city with a single move. However, such experts were willing to follow the old man. This showed how terrifying the old man was. "How dare you?" one of them shouted angrily. "Don't be rude." However, the old man waved his hand. The experts were stunned and did not dare to speak. In their eyes, Lin Ling was just a junior in the early True God realm. They could kill as many weak warriors as they wanted. "You must be Lin Ling." The old man looked at Lin Ling again and smiled. "Yes, I am." Lin Ling picked up the wine cup on the table and drank. He was still calm. He knew that the old man had guessed his identity the moment he found him. After all, he had extorted the realm-devouring beast corpse of the Grand Court Commandery. The real experts knew that he was Lin Ling. "Impressive. Impressive. It seems that you are quite capable to be able to make Green State so mighty." However, the old man did not seem to have any ill intentions towards Lin Ling. Instead, he nodded approvingly and said, "I will not beat around the bush. How many realm-devouring beast corpse do you have? The Green Dragon Divine Mansion wants them all. As for the price, it is easy to negotiate. I have a Void Distortion Jade token. It can be used to cultivate for a year." "A Void Distortion Jade token?" Lin Ling's eyes lit up. "Yes. You are from the Radiant Academy. You should know about the fragment of the Flame World. The Void Distortion Jade token is similar to this treasure ground. It can greatly increase a warrior's strength. It is also a precious place in the Four-Ring City. Not to mention a year, even a month can greatly increase a warrior's strength. Therefore, my Jade token is priceless. Moreover, you have left the Academy. Many people want to see you fall and be disregarded by the Great Green Divine Dynasty. Therefore you must be eager to increase your strength." One had to admit that the old man had a pair of sharp eyes. He knew Lin Ling's current plan. "I only have one corpse left. Do you want it?" Lin Ling thought for a while and said lightly, "There's only one left?" The old man frowned as if he was thinking about something. Time passed quietly. Finally, the old man looked up and smiled. "Okay, deal. Of course, my Void Distortion Jade token is obviously more valuable. I will use the extra price. How about that? I, Lin Ling, recognize you as an old friend." "Senior, you are indeed a straightforward person." Hearing Lin Ling, because the old man. "Haha, I've long heard of Lin Ling's great name. You're a monstrous genius from the Azure State. Now that I've met you today, you're to my liking. Come, cheers." "Senior, you have such strength and identity, but you treat me like a friend. You are indeed to my liking." Lin Ling laughed heartily as well, and the two of them began to drink and sing. Behind the old man, the experts were shocked. They didn't expect the mansion master to value Lin Ling so much. Moreover, Lin Ling didn't have the slightest fear when facing an expert like the mansion master. His courage was indeed impressive. The Sky Surpass leaderboard is about to begin. I will not say anything. I wish you success in clearing the leaderboard. You must know that there are many people who are concerned about you clearing the leaderboard. So don't disappoint them. To tell you the truth, one of the reasons why I asked to meet you today is because of an old friend of the Great Qing Divine Dynasty. She said that if she saw you, she should take care of you." "Haha, I didn't expect that I would meet you right after she asked me to." Through the conversation, Lin Ling knew that someone in the Great Green Divine Dynasty was secretly helping him. As for that person, Lin Ling guessed that it was most likely Grandma Wen Dao. After chatting for a while, Lin Ling bid farewell and left. Night fell, but the Four-Ring City was still bustling with noise and excitement. Occasionally, the roars of divine beasts could be heard. Lin Ling looked up at the sky and realized that this seemingly prosperous ancient city was actually filled with piles of bones. "Yu, the night is good. What are your plans?" "Brother Ling, are we going back?" "Of course not. The night is dark and the wind is strong. It is the time to kill." In the dark street, a cold voice was heard. The two figures disappeared into the night. At this moment, in the east of the Four-Ring City, in a lesser Void restaurant, several figures walked out laughing. Who else could it be but Lord Greenwood? The Lesser Void restaurant was a famous restaurant in the Four-Ring City. Because the restaurant was in the Void, it was unique. "My lord, please let me go." Lord Greenwood drank wine and walked forward. Behind him, an elite tied up a beautiful woman and pulled her forward. At this moment, the woman cried, "Shut up. It is your fortune to be liked by the young master." Those elites sneered. Looking at the woman's white neck, they all licked their lips. Lord Greenwood had met this woman on the road. She must be a genius who had entered the Four-Ring City. Unfortunately, the ambition of a genius was endless. When faced with powerful strength, everything was useless. So, this woman was captured by young Master Qing Mu. Guyun. At the front of the street, a young man was lying on the ground, screaming in pain. He was obviously seriously injured and couldn't even stand up. Ling Han. The woman also looked at the young man with reluctance. They were obviously a couple. Hee, with your trashy strength, you dare to bring a beauty into the Four-Ring City? Lord Greenwood said sarcastically as he drank wine. Breaking up a couple and forcefully taking the other half of the other, this was what he liked to do the most. Let me tell you, you geniuses can do whatever you want in the Third-Ring City and Second-Ring City. But in the Four-Ring City, you must obediently lower your heads. Now, kill him and bring the woman back. Lord Greenwood said again, swaggering, causing the martial artists on both sides of the street to be frightened. Ling Han. The woman who was tied up yelled out in worry. Unfortunately, the genius called Ling Han was injured before, and now he was no match for the elite behind Lord Greenwood. So pitiful, I don't know if they are the geniuses of the three great academies. However, they just came to the Four-Ring City and they met Lord Greenwood. How unlucky. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Early-stage true immortal geniuses in the Four-Ring City shouldn't be too ostentatious. Yes, if you want to walk freely in the Four-Ring City, unless you have a powerful background, you need to be at least in the middle stage of true immortal. Seeing this scene, the passers-by shook their heads, not daring to say anything. Go die, trash. At this moment, a tall and sturdy man appeared in front of Ling Han. He was Lord Greenwood's guard, and his strength had reached the 4th level of true immortal. He stretched out his hand, and a blood-red light appeared. Then, he looked at Ling Han and slapped down. Dead. Many people seem to have seen a bloody scene. Xiao. However, at this moment, sword light flashed. Put on. Chapter 2703. Violent Killing. Shwa. Fresh blood gushed out from his neck. His eyes were wide open, and he finally fell on his back. Pang. When the sound rang out, the street instantly fell into a dead silence. Lord Qing Mu was stunned, and so were the guards behind him. As for Ling Han and his wife, their eyes were wide open. Someone actually dared to kill Lord Qing Mu's guards? And in the Fourth-Ring City? Pa! At the same time, two figures walked out from the dark street, a man and a woman. The woman was as pure as a green lotus, and the man wore a black mask, like the god of death. One was pure, and the other was cold, forming a clear contrast. It's you! Lord Qing Mu quickly recognized Lin Ling. He couldn't believe it. The guy who spoke so humbly to him in the auction actually dared to kill his people? Good, good. I didn't think you'd be so bold. Lord Qing Mu was obviously angry. At the ancient stone auction, I had no enmity with you, but you provoked me time and time again. I didn't think you'd be so bold. Lin Ling said indifferently. In the Fourth-Ring City, that's my world. Not to mention provoking you, even if I kill you, you can't do anything. I don't know why you've come, but if you don't obediently kowtow and admit your mistake, I, Lord Qing Mu, will make sure you can't leave the Fourth-Ring City. Lord Qing Mu's expression was slightly ferocious. And at the auction, a piece of broken wood made me waste so much money. You'll have to pay me back tenfold for the loss I suffered. That woman can stay. He didn't seem to know Lin Ling's purpose for coming, and continued to be lawless. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled, and his smile was very cold. What if I refuse? Haha, no one has ever refused me. Do you see, this is what happened to them. Lord Qing Mu seemed to have heard the funniest joke, and pointed at the couple behind him. Do you see? They're the geniuses of the three big academies. But what use are they? I'll capture whoever I want. Young master, don't waste words with him, I'll kill him. The guards behind Lord Aoki said with a murderous look on their faces. No need, I'll deal with him. Lord Greenwood waved his hand to stop them. Green light appeared around his body and a dragon roared. Although he was ignorant and incompetent, His bloodline was clearly not weak. It was the talent of the Azure Dragon bloodline. I'm going to kill you with this punch. He took a step forward and threw a punch at Lin Ling. Roar! The roar of the Azure Dragon immediately shook the streets. Xueqi-kun's strength was not strong, so he had always relied on his guards. But he saw that Lin Ling's realm seemed to be lower, so he volunteered to fight. This would also show everyone how powerful the young master of the Azure Dragon Manor was. Unfortunately, he was so excited that he completely forgot that Lin Ling was able to kill his guard with a single strike. So how could Lin Ling's strength be something he could offend? You really don't know what death is. Lin Ling shook his head. He couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense, and his fist also exploded forth. His realm seemed to be the same as Lord Greenwood's, but his physical body was extremely powerful, and his realm essence was extremely dense. When their fists collided, the Azure Dragon immediately broke into pieces and finally turned into nothingness. Seeing this, everyone's eyes widened. The bloodline of the Azure Dragon Manor was definitely not weak, so although Lord Greenwood was lazy, his talent was amazing. But now, his talent had been destroyed with a single punch. Bang! At the same time, Lord Greenwood's body flew backward. His right arm was broken and dripping with blood. After smashing onto the ground, he seemed to have not reacted, and his face was blank. What an idiot! Lin Ling walked forward indifferently. To him, defeating Lord Greenwood with a single punch was as easy as drinking water. Kill him. What are you doing? Hurry up and kill him for me. Lord Greenwood was stunned for a moment, then immediately roared. The guards behind him were still in a daze. That guy was so strong? Then, they all came to their senses and rushed toward Lin Ling with mysterious steps. Some of them were fast, some were slow, and their movement techniques were unpredictable. Young hero, be careful. Seeing this, Ling Han was the first to speak. He had lost to these guards before, so he knew how powerful they were. And these guards were all in the 4th level of the True God realm, and a few of them were even kings of the Western Kingdom. They were indeed not to be underestimated. But to Lin Ling, it was useless. Boom! Lin Ling did not even look in front of him, and his fist shot out. That punch seemed to have hit nothing, but a strange thing happened. A guard actually appeared in front of the fist, as if he had collided with Lin Ling's fist himself. At this moment, he lowered his head and looked at his chest, his face full of disbelief. You're too slow. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Lin Ling shook his head and said. He withdrew his right arm, placed his left hand on the guard's cheek, and pushed lightly, extremely free and easy. Xiao! That guard immediately flew backward, but halfway through, his body suddenly exploded. Boom! Flesh and blood exploded, and blood bloomed like flowers. In reality, after he collided with Lin Ling's fist, his life force dissipated. So strong! Seeing this, Ling Han instantly opened his eyes wide in disbelief. The mysterious youth was not old, but his strength was actually so much stronger than his. Pang pang pang! Lin Ling still moved forward, and no matter if it was slow or fast, he greeted them all with a punch. With his current strength, not to mention a 4th level of the True God realm, he probably had few opponents in the 6th level of the True God realm. Pang pang pang! Blood was like flowers, blooming repeatedly on the street like a bloodbath. The surrounding people all sucked in a cold breath. They never thought that this mysterious man would defeat a 4th level of the True God realm as easily as chopping vegetables. That fist was too violent. Even Lord Aoki was dumbfounded, and even worshipped that fist. If only he had this strength, how awe-inspiring would it be to blast one person with one punch? At this moment of life and death, this pompous young master was not worried about his own safety, but was dreaming instead. From this, it could be seen that he indeed deserved to die. Or perhaps, he, who had always run amok, never thought that he would die today. Until Lin Ling got closer and closer to him, he finally reacted. Kill him, whoever kills him, I'll reward them handsomely. However, there were still 2 guards behind him. At this moment, their faces were pale, and not only did they not pounce on Lin Ling, they fled towards the other side of the street. You're courting death. Lord Aoki was dumbfounded. His guards were actually scared away by a stranger? Want to leave? However, Lin Ling did not plan to let them go. Pang! He took a step, causing the street to shake, and then shot towards those 2 people. Senior, spare me, we're just following orders. Those 2 guards were completely terrified. In their eyes, Lin Ling was simply a monster in human form. Pang. However, one of them strangely stopped in his tracks. That was because his chest had been pierced through by a punch. The other person was so scared that he did not dare to run, his mouth trembling. They were tyrannical in the Fourth Ring City, and this was the first time they met someone who dared to kill them. You don't need to talk nonsense. I'm not interested. Pang. Lin Ling said indifferently and punched out again, ending the last guard's life. Then, he slowly walked towards Lord Aoki. Silence. Chapter 2704. The Fourth Ring City was in turmoil. The ground was stained with blood, and a murderous aura permeated the air. No one had expected the Azure Dragon Manor to be so weak that they would be wiped out in less than an incense stick's time. Actually, I'm here to look for you. My things aren't that easy to steal, Lin Ling said as he walked. Lord Aoki's face turned paler and paler. He stared at Lin Ling, not daring to say a word. Aren't you enjoying yourself? Don't you like to be crushed? Now, let's see what happens, Lin Ling said. Lord Aoki's lips trembled, and his domineering aura disappeared. I won't kill you. We'll mind our own business. Kill. Kill me? Who's going to kill who now? Kill. Lin Ling couldn't help but shake his head. How useless was this guy? I was wrong. Please spare my life. That piece of wood is yours. How about you let me go? Lord Aoki crawled to his feet and kowtowed. If I kill you, those treasures will belong to me. Do you think I need to waste my time? Kill. Lin Ling had already appeared in front of Aoki-kun, looking down at him. You said that Sihuan City is your world, and that you can kill whoever you want. Unfortunately, you forgot that the true way to control the world is through strength. Kill. You won't let me go? Kill. Sensing Lin Ling's determination, Lord Aoki finally raised his head, his eyes filled with hatred. I'm the young master of the Azure Dragon Manor. If you kill me, you'll die even if you run to the ends of the world. Kill. I'll wait for the Azure Dragon Manor to settle the score with me. Kill. Lin Ling sneered. He had already provoked the Thunder Manor and the Sovereign Marquis. Why would he be afraid of the Azure Dragon Manor? Bang. With that, he slapped Lord Aoki's head, ending his life. Then he took the treasures on Lord Aoki's body and left. Dead. The young master of the Azure Dragon Manor is dead. Kill. The people on the streets were incomparably terrified. None of them dared to stay, and they all fled in all directions for fear of being implicated. Young lord, thank you. Meanwhile, the two of them kowtowed to Lin Ling. Without Lin Ling, the consequences of their actions would have been unimaginable. Get out of here quickly, Lin Ling said indifferently as he disappeared into the cold street with Yu Yu. So powerful. I wonder who he is. Not only is he powerful, even his courage is extraordinary. Ling Han muttered to himself as he looked ahead in admiration. This could be the strongest generation. Ling Han, let's go quickly. If we're late, it'll be too late, the woman behind him said anxiously, and the two of them immediately disappeared. After 3 incense sticks of time, a large number of powerhouses appeared. As they looked at the bloody streets and Lord Aoki who had died with his eyes wide open, all of them were stunned. Their faces were filled with panic. Because young master was dead. Who was so bold as to touch the Azure Dragon Manor's reverse scale? Junior. Not long after, a furious roar was heard. Soon after, a huge green dragon flew over from afar and swept across the ground, causing a large number of buildings to collapse. There were countless deaths and injuries. It was terrifying. Your Highness. The powerhouses on the street hurriedly knelt down. The huge green dragon finally stopped and raised its ancient head, looking down at the common people. You failed to protect young master. All of you die. The green dragon opened its mouth and spat out a terrifying power, blowing those powerhouses apart and killing them instantly. Your Highness, I can help you divine who it is. At this moment, a young man in white flew over from afar and landed on the ground. Left Minister's disciple, are you sure? The green dragon immediately looked at the young man in white and said in a low voice, if you can't divine it, Then you will die. No matter. The young man in white nodded proudly. A mysterious 8 trigrams compass appeared in his right hand. As he chanted, a mysterious barrier enveloped the entire street. What happened on the street before now appeared as if time had reversed. Who is this person? The Azure Dragon King's voice was extremely hoarse. He stared at the mysterious young man in the illusion. His eyes filled with killing intent. This person hid his identity. However, I divine that this person is a new rising star. The young man in white was indeed powerful. With a flick of his finger, he managed to guess a thing or two. Pass down my order. Capture all the geniuses in the 3 great academies as long as they are new rising stars. Kill them all. Don't let them go. The Azure Dragon King roared, causing half of the sky in the 4-ring city to shake. Countless powerhouses were also frightened. Lord Azure Wood is dead? Who is so bold to pull his beard in front of the Dragon King? TSK. Now many people are going to be implicated, especially the new rising geniuses. They are in danger. It is time for the Sky Surpass leaderboard to be updated. This is also the time when the most rising geniuses are rising. It is really an eventful time. Every corner of the 4-ring city was filled with discussions. He is really dead. In a restaurant, Xian Linglong's expression changed non-stop after she heard the news. She looked at Meng Lu with a grave expression. Meng Lu drank a mouthful of wine and smiled meaningfully. That guy really wants to see the world in chaos. Every time he appears, the world is shaken. With the power of the Azure Dragon Divine Mansion, it is not difficult for them to find the murderer. Even if they catch the wrong person, they will still kill him. The leaderboard will be updated in a year. The 4-ring city is going to be shaken. Xian Linglong shook her head and said, the death of Lord Azure would affected the whole situation. The 4-ring city was obviously shaken again. This night was obviously a sleepless night. Everyone in the 4-ring city was anxious. At this moment, Lin Ling also received the news. He did not expect the Azure Dragon Divine Mansion to be so powerful that it could cause the whole city to be shaken. However, he had too many enemies now. It did not matter if there was one more or one less enemy. There is one more year until the leaderboard is updated. This year we have to work hard. Lin Ling acted as if this matter did not concern him as he led Yu Yu forward. 1 year seemed to be a long time. In fact, it was just a blink of an eye for a martial artist. Lin Ling planned to enter the distorted void. Firstly, he could increase his strength. Secondly, he could avoid the storm. This time, I must defeat the Grim Reaper. Lin Ling looked at the sky and his eyes were burning with passion. He had been waiting for the strongest generation for a long time. The distorted void was located in a corner of the 4-ring city. There was no wind there all year round. If a martial artist was not proficient in martial arts, it would be easy for them to lose control of their body as if they were drunk. Sense the universe, don't sense the wind. Under the boundless green mountains, 2 figures slowly flew past. The man smiled and said, don't worry. Brother Ling, this is your first time here. How did you get familiar with it so quickly? The beautiful woman said gloomily. Because there was no wind around, she could not control her body and flew unsteadily. Chapter 2705. The Distorted Void. As they moved forward, more and more people gathered in front of them. In a valley, a large number of martial artists were gathered. Some of them were young, while others were white-haired. At this moment, they were all looking at a huge whirlpool. That was the Distorted Void. This mystic realm was controlled by the great Azure Divine Dynasty. Those who entered had to pay divine crystals, and 1 million divine crystals could only cultivate for a day. Lin Ling had the jade token given by the White Tiger Divine Palace, so he could cultivate for a year. Brother Ling, this jade token was given to you by that senior. My cultivation level is not high, so I'll cultivate for 10 days. Yu Yu looked at the huge whirlpool in front of them and said. Lin Ling nodded. He guessed that cultivating in the distorted void was very difficult. Those who were not strong enough would not be able to benefit from it, but would instead be harmful. Yu Yu going to cultivate for 10 days was about right. Sir, do you have a jade token? As the 2 of them moved forward, An old man looked at them with a smile from afar. He looked extremely polite. Yes. Before Lin Ling could speak, Yu Yu saw that the other party was kind and amiable, so she immediately nodded. She thought that the old man was the guardian of the distorted void. Is that so? Then can I take a look? There are real and fake jade tokens in the distorted void. Be careful that you don't buy fake goods. The old man was still smiling. At this moment, Yu Yu immediately looked at Lin Ling. Lin Ling frowned and shook his head. No need. Our jade tokens are real. As soon as he said that, the old man's expression changed. He said indifferently, young friend, I'm kindly reminding you. Don't be so shameless. His attitude changed instantly. A moment ago, he was still kind and amiable, but now he was cold and heartless. This made Yu Yu's pupils dilate. You two reckless juniors. How dare you steal my jade tokens? If you don't hand them over, don't blame me for being impolite. Who knew that not only did the old man's attitude become ferocious, but he even walked toward Lin Ling with a surging aura. Yu Yu immediately frowned. When did they steal the old man's jade tokens? His hands and feet are really dirty. In my opinion, such a person should be beaten out of here. That's right. Of course, he has to hand over his jade tablet and then kill him directly. The moral degeneration of the world is getting worse with each passing day. How can there be such a person? Suddenly, a large number of cold shouts came from the surrounding mountain range. It was as if Lin Ling and the young man were rats crossing the street, arousing the anger of the masses. Of course, there was no lack of people who sneered. These people had stayed here for a long time, and because they didn't have any divine crystals to enter the distorted space, they falsely accused some newcomers. And Lin Ling and Yi Shiwen were clearly newcomers who didn't know the rules. Moreover, they weren't strong, so they became the prey that they had set their sights on. This was also an unwritten rule in the distorted void. At this moment, the old man walked over and shouted, "Hand it over." Lin Ling's expression also turned cold. He didn't say anything else, and with a clap of his right hand, the tyrannical song sword behind him flew out. Go! The Ashura sword formation shot out coldly and mercilessly. How dare you! The old man didn't expect Lin Ling to take the initiative to attack. This guy didn't seem to be a pushover. He also clapped his right hand, and a mottled cauldron floated up. Purple smoke filled the air, and firmly protected him within it. He was a rogue cultivator who had been training all year round, so he had a treasure to protect himself. This cauldron was extremely extraordinary. It was a third-grade celestial treasure, and its defense was extremely strong. Go to hell! With the cauldron's protection, the old man revealed his ferocious side. Unfortunately, he underestimated Lin Ling's sword. Lin Ling's tyrannical song sword was a fifth-grade celestial treasure. Swoosh! Swoosh! The purple smoke was cut apart, and with a few slashes, the cauldron was cut into pieces. The old man was stunned, and then he flew into a rage. You destroyed my sunshine purple smoke cauldron? His treasure was obviously very precious, and now that it was destroyed, he naturally felt heartache. Not only did I destroy the treasure, but I also killed you. Kill! Lin Ling coldly spat out a sentence, and activated the Ashura sword formation to attack. This was no longer the Resplendent Academy. This place was even more ruthless. In order to become stronger, martial artists would use any means. The bones under the four-ring city were the proof. It was no wonder that the Resplendent Academy thought that Lin Ling would decline after leaving the academy, because it was indeed difficult to be alone outside. Of course, the Resplendent Academy had underestimated Lin Ling. The sword came out to take his life. The old man was still furious, but when the merciless sword came, his whole body trembled. Sensing the terror of those swords, he anxiously shouted, "I don't want your jade token. Retreat!" Then, he frantically retreated, knowing that he had kicked an iron plate. Die! Die! Unfortunately, Lin Ling was decisive in killing. If his strength was not as good as the old man, he would be the one left here today. That old man was also a master who killed people like flies. Don't go too far. The old man had been hunting eagles for many years, but he never thought that he would be pecked in the eye by an eagle today. Unfortunately, the answer he got was several cold swords. Sword light flashed, and the old man's body froze in place, motionless, and finally fell on his back. Plop! When the sound rang out, the martial artists around the mountain range trembled in fear. You killed him? Soon, someone said coldly. If you want my jade token, come and get it yourself, but I can't guarantee your life. Lin Ling held Yu Yu's hand and moved forward again. The Ashura sword formation floated around him, making him look like an Ashura demon king. This time, the merciless martial artists around hesitated. That young man was very cold, and he was not an existence that could be trampled on. If they provoked him, it would be troublesome. Gradually, the martial artists around fell silent, and sat down cross-legged to cultivate again. Lin Ling's lips curled into a cold smile. No matter where, strength always proved everything. Space distortion. No one dared to stop Lin Ling, and Lin Ling and Yu Yu arrived in front of the giant whirlpool. This whirlpool was very similar to the giant whirlpool that was formed when two worlds collided in the past, but it was not as ferocious. Moreover, Lin Ling saw that there were many barriers in the whirlpool. This was clearly a void controlled by someone. Then, a divine crystal appeared in Lin Ling's hand. After looking at the whirlpool, he threw it in. Suddenly, some of the barriers in the giant whirlpool lit up. You can go in. You have a total of 10 days of cultivation. Lin Ling looked at Yu Yu and said, after you finish cultivating, return to the rainforest market immediately. I will cultivate here for a year. Okay. Yu Yu nodded. Lin Ling brought her into the whirlpool. Since Lin Ling had the jade token, the giant whirlpool did not stop him. After entering, it was like a dream. It was like the moon in the water. The world inside was white, and the spiritual energy was extremely strange. Some places had rich spiritual energy, while others had thin spiritual energy. Most importantly, the spiritual energy was in a distorted state. It was extremely mysterious. Bang! Lin Ling punched out, and he immediately realized that his fist was also distorted. Then, he swung his sword again. His sword was also distorted, and all of his power was distorted. Interesting. Seeing this, Lin Ling could not help but smile with interest. What a magical place. Yu Yu's eyes were also widened. Then, under Lin Ling's guidance, Yu Yu sat cross-legged and cultivated. The effect of cultivating here was 10 times better than cultivating outside. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.